So look, my name's Bailey Jing, third prince of the Great Jin dynasty, and my life is basically a cosmic joke. Let me set the scene. I'm 7 years old, sitting in class learning the 1,000-character classic for the third year in a row. 3 years. The same book. I've been studying since I was 4, and my teacher, a royal tutor, mind you, apparently got one job description. Make sure this kid isn't illiterate. That's it. Don't try hard. So here we are, me and this old man, taking turns yawning at each other like it's a competitive sport. My little brother Bailey, who sits next to me, shoots me a look of pure disgust when I yawn, then snaps back to his perfect student act. He's 4. 4. Already judging me. Classic. Here's the thing about being me. My mom died giving birth to me. Dad, that's the emperor, was strolling through the palace when someone ran up and said, "Hey, your concubine's dead, but congrats on the baby boy." Dad looked up at the sky, saw some war-omened star, immediately got the creeps, and walked away. Didn't even come see me. Just yelled over his shoulder, "Name him Jing," which means peace and stability. Thanks, Dad. Real warm. At least he didn't name me Bailey, please no more wars, or Bailey, everything is fine. For a couple years I actually had it good. The Empress adopted me, and suddenly I was her firstborn son. Big deal in palace politics. Everyone was paying attention to me. The older princes, the ministers, everybody. Too bad I was a toddler eating dirt and chasing butterflies, completely missing my only window of political relevance. Because then the Empress got pregnant with her own kid, popped out little Who, and I went from precious adopted prince to that kid still living in my house, I guess. Now who's starting school, and they finally upgraded my teacher from village literacy volunteer to an actual scholar. Great news, right? Wrong. Because we're still doing the 1,000-character classic. You could swap in Confucius himself, and I'd still be reading the same sentences I memorized 2 years ago. A parrot could pass this class by now. And who? Oh, who's thriving? Reading like a little prodigy, making me look like a decorative rock by comparison. The Empress is suddenly being nice to me again just because I make her real son look like a genius. I'm a human participation trophy. But here's where it gets weird. On my 5th birthday, this glowing panel thing just appeared, floats in the air, only I can see it, pops out of my wrist like magic. Big shiny title across the top, Capital City, Dream of Prosperity, basically a city-building game. I poke around, find the input field that says, enter your city name, tap it, and every single time it goes, first, own a city, own a city. I'm 6. I don't even own my own afternoon schedule. So now my entire life plan is, get a royal title, get shipped off to some territory, and finally have a city to plug into my mysterious magical floating iPad. Every prince in this dynasty gets sent away young, some as early as 5. But no, my oldest brother, Prince Number 1, has a powerful mom and a rich family backing him, so he convinced Dad to let him stay until after his wedding. He's 14 and still hogging the palace, which means none of us can leave either. Every time I see that guy, I smile politely while mentally cursing him and his entire family tree. Bro, I don't want the throne. I don't want your spotlight. I just want my little patch of land and my glowy game board. Please go get married and get out. So after class I waited for my little brother Who to disappear because walking with that tiny peacock is physically painful. But the second I turned a corner, there was Big Brother Number 1, Bailey Jin, rolling up with his whole entourage like a royal parade. Meanwhile, I've got one little eunuch behind me. 1. He stopped, gave me this unreadable look, and said, "Long time no see, third brother." Haven't changed a bit. Before I could respond, his cousin Wang Yin jumped in with this whole dramatic speech about how rude and arrogant I am. Sir, I am 6. I'm barely tall enough to reach a table. What did I ever do to you? But fine, you want to play? I blinked my big innocent eyes and said, "Oh, you must be Big Brother's cousin from the famous Wang family. Your pronunciation is really something special. You said third. Prince, like every syllable was living in its own house. Made me feel so distinguished." Wang Yan's face turned purple. He pointed at me sputtering, "You." Big Brother cut him off fast, probably because we were near the Empress's palace, and he didn't want his cousin saying something stupid that'd give the Empress ammunition. Smart guy, honestly. So I held up 5 fingers, thought about it, added one more, and said, "I'm 6 years old. Are you also 6? Translation. I'm a child, I don't know better, and you're a grown man arguing with a kindergartner. Checkmate. Big brothers, I twitched. I could practically hear him thinking, right? This is the kid who's been learning the alphabet for 3 years. He's basically a potato. He forced a smile, told me to run along, and I strutted away with my neck held high like the world's smallest, most unbothered emperor. Turns out, that little confrontation was the best thing that ever happened to me. When the court brought up sending Big Brother away again, the Wong family, still mad about me apparently, went out of their way to say, hey, why not send the third prince too? They literally volunteered to get rid of me. Nobody even mentioned the second or fourth princes. Just me, the throwaway kid. Thanks, Wang Yen. I owe you one. Dad didn't think for even a single second. Just went, sure, whatever. So Big Brother got the title, Prince Yu, in a fancy rich territory called Yuyang. And me? I got Prince Qiong and Xiongzhou, basically the edge of nowhere near the southern border. One step further, and I'd fall off the map. But then it changed again. Some military official pointed out that Xiongzhou was too close to my maternal grandfather's army in the southwest. Can't have that, obviously. A neglected prince with zero power might somehow become dangerous if he's near the only relatives who actually like him. Logic. So they summoned me to the throne room. I climbed those enormous palace stairs on my tiny legs, shaking the whole way. Couldn't tell if it was exhaustion or terror. Dad lounged on his throne like he was picking lunch options and had the decree read out. Third Prince Jing. Title, Prince Yu. Territory, Youzhou. Depart soon. My heart, which had been hanging by a thread, officially flatlined. Youzhou, the extreme northeast. The frozen edge of the empire. They literally moved me from one end of the country to the other end, as far from my grandpa and uncle as geographically possible, without throwing me into the ocean. My eunuch Zhao Bao tried to cheer me up. Youzhou is huge. Way bigger than Yuyang. Yeah, and Yuyang is also richer than Youzhou by about 50 times. I'm small, not stupid. I flopped on my bed, pulled the blanket over my head, and had a brief funeral for my dreams. I'd never see my uncle again. My sweet older sister Zhao, who lives in another palace, probably never again either. No coming back to the capital without imperial permission, and let's be real, Dad doesn't even remember my birthday. But then, I remembered the glowing game panel. I whipped it out, went to the city name field, and carefully wrote, Youzhou. The second I finished the last stroke, the word lit up in gold. No more. First, own a city. Error message. It accepted it. The whole interface transformed. New sections everywhere. A welcome message popped up saying let's build the greatest city in the world together, with a little squiggle at the end like it was genuinely excited for me. First thing, a starter gift pack. 100 gold ingots. A city lord's heart, and a beginner horse. Cool. I understood maybe 30% of those words. I poked, city lord's heart, and a description bubble appeared. Core treasure of the game. Makes the city lord strong, immune to poison, and impervious to blades. Also lets you monitor everything in your territory. Use now? Yes/no. Immune to poison? Stab proof? I'm an unwanted prince heading to barbarian territory. Yes, please. My finger hit. Yes, before my brain finished reading. Immediately, giant red letters filled the screen. Warning. You are now permanently bound to Youzhou. If the city falls, you die. Warning. That I'm sorry, what? Youzhou, the city that has already been conquered once in my short lifetime. The city on the border with actual nomadic warriors. That Youzhou. And now if it falls, I just die? I blacked out. Face planted right onto the floor. My last thought before losing consciousness was, this stupid game just scammed a 6-year-old. So I passed out. Face first on the floor. Because a magical floating iPad just told me I'd die if my city gets conquered. I'm 6. Zhao Bao heard the thud, rushed in, found me drenched in sweat on the ground, and spent the entire night panicking with doctors. By morning my fever broke. The royal physician gave the all-clear, and I opened my eyes. Apparently when I woke up there was a flash of gold in my eyes. Zhao Bao noticed it, but then blinked and it was gone. He decided he was just tired. Sure, buddy. Definitely that. The second he left, I ripped open my glowing panel. Everything had changed. The starter pack was gone, already claimed, I guess. After frantically poking around, I found my stuff. 100 gold ingots listed under my assets. and a warehouse with 2 items. The horse was still red and usable. The city lord's heart was grayed out with a fat, already used, stamp on it. I stared at the last 4 words of its description, City Falls. You die? It wasn't a dream. Wonderful. I touched my chest like maybe I could feel the thing in there. Nothing. Cool. Great. I'm bound to a border city with an invisible death contract, and I can't even tell where they installed it. Then, like an absolute genius, I thought, well, things can't get worse, and tapped the horse icon. Use beginner mount. Chestnut horse? Yes/no, I hit yes. What's it gonna do? Kill me twice. A full-sized horse materialized in my bedroom. Just, poof, giant horse, standing on my floor, looking at me. In my tiny royal bedroom, we stared at each other, 2 beings equally confused about how we got here. Then I heard footsteps outside, servants bringing bath water, and my soul left my body. How do I explain a horse in my room? Oh, this. He was always here. You just never noticed my enormous indoor horse. I was shaking so hard I could barely tap the screen. Found a green, recall, button next to the horse icon, slammed it, and the horse vanished. Gone. Like it was never there. I collapsed back on the bed. Bring me a bucket of cold water. I need to sit in it and think about my life. Zhao Bao, bless him, ignored that request and just fussed about proper bathing temperatures. He also reminded me I'm supposed to say, this king, instead of, I now. Right. I'm a king. A king who just spawned a horse in his bedroom and is spiritually bonded to a crumbling border town. Very regal. Months passed. I adjusted. The City Falls, you die? Thing kept me up for about 3 days, then I just got over it. What am I gonna do? Unbind myself. The button's gray. It's done. I channeled my anxiety into actually practicing calligraphy, because if I'm going to be exiled to the frozen Northeast forever, I should at least write decent letters to my uncle and sister. That's my entire social life now, pen pals. Then came the Mid-Autumn Festival. Dad decided to throw a huge banquet since it was Big Brother's last one before leaving. Zhao Bao dressed me up like a little red dumpling and sent me out. And immediately, I ran into Big Brother again. Same hallway intersection energy as last time, except this time I practically sprinted over, bowed so deep my forehead almost touched my knees, and said, "Greetings, esteemed elder brother," with maximum sweetness. Look, I've matured. He's getting the rich territory, he's got money and soldiers, and I'm heading to frozen nowhere. If I ever run out of food up there, I need someone to mooch off of. Can't burn bridges with the only wealthy sibling. He was confused. Last time I was a pint-sized attitude problem. Now I'm bowing like a grateful puppy. He just flicked his sleeve and walked in first. I sighed behind him. Yeah, mooching off Youzhou is gonna be tough. At the banquet, Dad and Big Brother had this whole tearful father-son moment. My dear Jeaner, I'll miss you so much. Father, please take care of yourself. Back and forth, dripping with emotion. I sat right next to them listening to every word, and I started crying. Not because I was moved, because I was doing math. Here's the calculation. If Dad feels sentimental enough, maybe he won't cut my royal guard down to 2,000 soldiers. Every prince gets 3,000 guards, but Dad's been shaving numbers for years. I need those soldiers. I'm going to live next to actual barbarian tribes. This is a survival issue. So I cried. Hard. Big fat tears rolling down my chubby red face. Oscar-worthy performance. Full commitment. My brother looked over like, that what is happening? Across the table, fourth brother whose face clearly read, have you lost your mind? Second brother looked disgusted. I ignored all of them and aimed my watery puppy eyes directly at Dad. Dad finally noticed. Why are you crying? Listen to this man. He calls Big Brother, my dear Jeaner. He calls me Prince Yu. I'm his son too. But fine. I swallowed that pain and whimpered, hearing Father and Big Brother talk. I realized Youzhou is so far away. I don't know when I'll see Father, Mother, and Sister again. Dad looked down at me. Chubby cheeks, big teary eyes, little red outfit, genuinely pitiful, and I could see it working. A tiny crack in the imperial armor. He grumbled, you're not that young. Crying at a banquet. How improper. Your uncles were sent away at 5. Then, almost as an afterthought, fine. Before you leave, I'll tell the Empress to let you visit your sister more. That's it. That's what I got. Not extra soldiers. Not better territory. Visiting rights to my own sister. The kid who cries gets candy. The unwanted kid gets One candy. Maybe half. But hey, I'll take it. I dried my own tears, comforted my own self, and went back to eating. Nobody else was going to do it for me. So I passed out, face first on the floor, because a magical floating iPad just told me I'd die if my city gets conquered. I'm 6. Zhao Bao heard the thud, rushed in, found me drenched in sweat on the ground, and spent the entire night panicking with doctors. By morning my fever broke. The royal physician gave the all-clear, and I opened my eyes. Apparently when I woke up there was a flash of gold in my eyes. Zhao Bao noticed it, but then blinked and it was gone. He decided he was just tired. Sure, buddy. Definitely that. The second he left, I ripped open my glowing panel. Everything had changed. The starter pack was gone, already claimed, I guess. After frantically poking around, I found my stuff. 100 gold ingots listed under my assets, and a warehouse with 2 items. The horse was still red and usable. The city lord's heart was grayed out with a fat, already used, stamp on it. I stared at the last 4 words of its description, City Falls. You die? It wasn't a dream. Wonderful. I touched my chest like maybe I could feel the thing in there. Nothing. Cool. Great. I'm bound to a border city with an invisible death contract, and I can't even tell where they installed it. Then, like an absolute genius, I thought, well, things can't get worse, and tapped the horse icon. Use beginner mount. Chestnut horse? Yes/no, I hit yes. What's it gonna do? Kill me twice. A full-sized horse materialized in my bedroom. Just, poof, giant horse, standing on my floor, looking at me, in my tiny royal bedroom. We stared at each other, 2 beings equally confused about how we got here. Then I heard footsteps outside, servants bringing bath water, and my soul left my body. How do I explain a horse in my room? Oh, this. He was always here. You just never noticed my enormous indoor horse. I was shaking so hard I could barely tap the screen. Found a green, recall, button next to the horse icon, slammed it, and the horse vanished. Gone. Like it was never there. I collapsed back on the bed. Bring me a bucket of cold water. I need to sit in it and think about my life. Zhao Bao, bless him, ignored that request and just fussed about proper bathing temperatures. He also reminded me I'm supposed to say, this king, instead of, I now. Right. I'm a king. A king who just spawned a horse in his bedroom and is spiritually bonded to a crumbling border town. Very regal. Months passed. I adjusted. The City Falls, you die thing kept me up for about 3 days, then I just got over it. What am I gonna do? Unbind myself. The button's gray. It's done. I channeled my anxiety into actually practicing calligraphy, because if I'm going to be exiled to the frozen Northeast forever, I should at least write decent letters to my uncle and sister. That's my entire social life now, pen pals. Then came the Mid-Autumn Festival. Dad decided to throw a huge banquet since it was Big Brother's last one before leaving. Zhao Bao dressed me up like a little red dumpling and sent me out. And immediately, I ran into Big Brother again. Same hallway intersection energy as last time, except this time I practically sprinted over, bowed so deep my forehead almost touched my knees, and said, "Greetings, esteemed elder brother," with maximum sweetness. Look, I've matured. He's getting the rich territory, he's got money and soldiers, and I'm heading to frozen nowhere. If I ever run out of food up there, I need someone to mooch off of. Can't burn bridges with the only wealthy sibling. He was confused. Last time I was a pint-sized attitude problem. Now I'm bowing like a grateful puppy. He just flicked his sleeve and walked in first. I sighed behind him. Yeah, mooching off Youzhou is gonna be tough. At the banquet, Dad and Big Brother had this whole tearful father-son moment. My dear Jeaner, I'll miss you so much. Father, please take care of yourself. Back and forth, dripping with emotion. I sat right next to them listening to every word, and I started crying. Not because I was moved, because I was doing math. Here's the calculation. If Dad feels sentimental enough, maybe he won't cut my royal guard down to 2,000 soldiers. Every prince gets 3,000 guards, but Dad's been shaving numbers for years. I need those soldiers. I'm going to live next to actual barbarian tribes. This is a survival issue. So I cried. Hard. Big fat tears rolling down my chubby red face. Oscar-worthy performance. Full commitment. My brother looked over like, that what is happening? Across the table, fourth brother whose face clearly read, have you lost your mind? Second brother looked disgusted. I ignored all of them and aimed my watery puppy eyes directly at Dad. Dad finally noticed. Why are you crying? Listen to this man. He calls Big Brother, my dear Jeaner. He calls me Prince Yu. I'm his son too. But fine. I swallowed that pain and whimpered, hearing Father and Big Brother talk. I realized Youzhou is so far away. I don't know when I'll see Father, Mother, and Sister again. Dad looked down at me. Chubby cheeks, big teary eyes, little red outfit, genuinely pitiful, and I could see it working. A tiny crack in the imperial armor. He grumbled, "You're not that young. Crying at a banquet. How improper. Your uncles were sent away at 5. Then, almost as an afterthought, fine. Before you leave, I'll tell the Empress to let you visit your sister more. That's it. That's what I got. Not extra soldiers. Not better territory. Visiting rights to my own sister. The kid who cries gets candy. The unwanted kid gets 1 candy. Maybe half. But hey, I'll take it." I dried my own tears, comforted my own self, and went back to eating. Nobody else was going to do it for me. My sister Bailey Zhao is 8, 2 years older than me, and she's basically the only person in this entire palace who genuinely likes me. She lives with Consort Wei, a distant relative of our dead mom, who actually treats her well. As far as palace arrangements go, it's not bad. Consort Wei gets a purpose, Zhao gets a semi-decent guardian. Win-win. Dad gave me permission to visit her before I leave, so I've been hanging around Consort Wei's palace like a chubby little regular. My sister and I get along great. She's sweet, she's kind, she makes me snacks, everything a motherless disaster child needs. One autumn day, we went for a walk along the palace stream to look at flowers. Golden October, last bit of color before everything dies. We found some osmanthus trees, and my angel sister said she'd pick the blossoms and bake me little cakes. I was so happy. Look at my round face. This is a face that loves cake. Then she had to add, because once you go to Youzhou, you won't get these anymore. I heard it's freezing cold with ocean wind all year. Osmanthus trees probably can't even grow there. Thanks, SGS. Really needed that climate report right now. We were still playing around when we heard music ahead. I sent my eunuch to check, and he came back saying second brother Bailey Hung was hosting a fancy outdoor party at the Nine Curve Pavilion. Drinking, music, dancers, the whole royal luxury package. Since I was there, I figured I should go say hello. Always good to maintain relationships with siblings, especially rich ones. When I got closer, my jaw nearly hit the ground. The pavilion was draped on 3 sides with moonlight silk. Not regular fabric, moonlight silk. The stuff that literally shimmers like moonlight when the breeze hits it. Worth an absolute fortune. In our palace, only fourth brother who gets full outfits made from it. And here's second brother using it as wind curtains for his afternoon hangout spot. But that's Bailey Hung for you. His mom's family controls the salt trade across the entire South. Salt is basically half the empire's revenue. He could blow his nose with moonlight silk and still have enough left to carpet his bedroom. I tried to play it cool, but I'm 6. My face does what it wants. Every time the wind blew and the silk caught the light, my eyes drifted over. His companions noticed and started whispering. Then second brother, with the casual cruelty only a rich kid can pull off, said, "You like the moonlight silk, third brother? How about after I'm done with it? I'll have it taken down and sent to you." The pavilion went dead silent. Everyone was watching, waiting for me to explode. That's what fourth brother would do. Blow up, throw a tantrum, run to mommy empress. But I am not fourth brother. I am a 6-year-old political chess piece heading to the frozen edge of civilization, and I cannot afford pride. So I stepped forward, smiled, bowed, and said, "Thank you, second brother. That's so much fabric. I bet I can find undamaged sections and get several outfits made." Every single person in that pavilion looked like they'd been slapped with a fish. Here's what would happen if I'd gotten angry. Within half an hour, the entire palace, front court, back court, Dad included, would hear that the Prince of You threw a fit. And they wouldn't say, second brother was being a jerk. They'd say, Prince You is so spoiled he turns his nose up at moonlight silk. And then someday when the treasury is broke and they need someone to blame, some minister would dig that up. Remember when Prince You was too good for moonlight silk? Maybe we should cut his funding. I'm small. I'm not stupid. Of course, the story spread anyway, but in a different version. Now everyone's saying, poor little third prince is so broke he's taking second brother's used curtains to make clothes. Even Consort Wei heard about it and sent over 2 bolts of moonlight-colored fabric out of pity. My dignity. Where did it go? Someone find it. But here's the silver lining I didn't even know about yet. Dad heard the story too. And apparently the image of his sad little red dumpling son happily accepting hand-me-down curtain fabric stirred up just enough guilt. He quietly told his head eunuch, when Prince Yu leaves, give him the same supplies and money as Prince Yu. Youzhou isn't exactly wealthy. The same as big brother. The favorite son. The one with the rich territory. Dad matched my going-away budget to his. If I'd known getting publicly humiliated was this profitable, I would have asked second brother to throw food at me too. Zhao Bao came in that evening and found me sulking over a book, lips pouting so hard you could hang a lantern off them. Still upset, Your Highness? Humph. You know, when you accepted second brother's offer, you should have anticipated this. I didn't think word would spread that fast. Even Consort Wei sent me pity fabric. Does this king not have a face? But honestly, I got over it quick. I'm moving to Youzhou. What's dignity gonna do for me there? Keep me warm. I'll take the fabric and the pity. Thank you very much. Tonight, I want honey-roasted venison, braised lamb, and steamed buns. Every meal in this palace is one less meal I'll ever get here. Gotta eat while the eating's good. The day finally came. Big brother got married, and it was time for both of us to leave. Quick lesson on how this dynasty works. Every prince gets a territory, a royal tutor, a prime minister, and some other officials. The tutor and prime minister are picked by dad, because obviously you can't trust a child to run a government. Some princes leave at 5. They can barely hold chopsticks, and they're supposed to manage a province. Now here's the good part. Zhao Bao slipped me a secret letter saying my new prime minister, Shui Linen, was actually planted by my grandpa the Marquis, and my deputy guard commander Zhao Chuan used to serve under my uncle. Grandpa's arms are apparently long enough to reach across the entire empire. Respect, old man. Serious respect. So at least I won't be completely alone out there. I've got Zhao Bao plus 2 secret allies. That's 3 whole people I can trust. Luxury. At the departure gate, 2 long columns of soldiers stretched out. One for Big Brother, one for me. I did a quick visual comparison and, actually, our lines looked about the same length, same number of troops. I nearly choked. Dad actually gave me the full 3,000. The crying at the banquet worked. Quality-wise, couldn't tell you. Could be 3,000 elite warriors. Could be 3,000 guys who lost a bet. But the number is right, and that's all I can ask for. I climbed into my carriage, peeked through the curtain at the massive palace walls behind me, and felt a genuine lump in my throat. Maybe I'll never see this place again. I suddenly understood why Big Brother's eyes were red. And he has parents who love him and siblings who'll miss him. What do I have? Dad literally waved me away like shooing a fly. Zhao Bao, did I overdo it back there at the farewell? Your Highness's sincere heart will surely be understood by His Majesty. Translation. Yes, you did. Look, I figured it was my last chance. He's not going to punish me for being dramatic when I'm literally leaving forever. So I went all in. Tears streaming, face bright red, thumping my very unmuscular little chest, swearing I'd guard the northern border and never let a single barbarian get past me. Dad was touched for about 4 seconds. Then I think he remembered the quality of the soldiers he gave me and thought, yeah, if things get bad enough that this kid's 3,000 guys are the last line of defense, we've already lost. He stopped being touched and just told me to get out. Fair. First time outside the palace walls. Everything was exciting. I kept sneaking peeks through the carriage curtain at the streets, the shops, the people. I was like a hamster seeing sunlight for the first time. Freedom. The world. Things that aren't the 1,000-character classic. That lasted about an hour. Then we hit the refugees. Flooding in Zhangzhou had sent waves of starving people toward the capital. The road was lined with them, thin, hollow-eyed, barely alive. They saw our armored soldiers and didn't dare rush us, just knelt on the roadside begging for food in weak little voices. I spotted a woman holding the hand of a boy about my age. Except this kid was skin and bones, eyes blank, mechanically kneeling beside his mother and whispering for food. Same age as me. Completely different universe. I told Tonchin to bring him 2 steamed buns. Zhao Bao gave me that look. Your Highness, please think, look. It's not that we can't spare 2 buns, he said quietly. It's that if we give food to a woman and child, the second we turn our backs, other refugees might attack them for it. We could get them killed. My face went white. Fine. Tongchun, take some guards, watch the boy eat everything, then come back. That was all I could do. Our grain supply had to feed 3,000 soldiers all the way to Youzhou. There was no extra. I couldn't save everyone. I stopped opening the curtain after that. I was afraid of the empty faces. Afraid of the bodies just lying by the road. Funny thing, in that moment I actually felt grateful toward Dad. He doesn't like me, sure, but he fed me, clothed me, kept me alive for 7 years, and sent me off with enough money to not starve immediately. Compared to those people outside my carriage, I'm basically royalty. Wait, I am royalty. Bad example, but you get it. Further north the refugees disappeared, but I still didn't open the curtain because now we were in drought country. Thousands of boots on dry dirt roads kicked up dust storms so thick you could chew the air. One peek outside, and I'd be eating a full meal of yellow dirt. By the end of each day, every soldier was coated head to toe in a thick layer of dust. 3,000 identical clay-colored figures marching in a line down the road. I looked at them and said, "We look like burial figurines. You know, the clay soldiers they bury with dead emperors? That's us." A walking tomb said. Zhao Bao's face went through several stages of grief. I'm pretty sure he wanted to drag my tutor into the carriage and say, "Please listen to what comes out of this child's mouth and fix it." The road north wasn't exactly peaceful either. Floods in the east, bandits in the mountains. We'd pass through scenic gorges and find smashed merchant caravans and bloodstains on the rocks. Lovely scenery really sells the frozen exile experience. No bandits were stupid enough to attack us, at least. 3,000 soldiers are 3,000 soldiers, even if they're covered in dust and look like pottery. I sighed a lot. Like a lot. Eventually I started adding commentary. My father's empire is really running smooth, huh? The floods, the bandits, the starving people, the Zhao Bao physically covered my mouth every time. MMPH, he just stared at me. The man who should be sighing the most on this trip? Not me. It's him. The closer we got to Youzhou, the fewer people existed. Like, literally. The road went from occasional village to, is anyone alive out here? Perfectly good flat land everywhere. Not a single farm. Down south, every inch of flat ground had crops growing. Up here, tumbleweeds and existential dread. I told myself I was ready. I'd mentally prepared. I'd accepted my fate. I was not ready. The city walls were tall, I'll give them that. Border city, makes sense. But the state of them? The sign above the gate was supposed to say, Youzhou City, 3 characters. Wind and weather had eaten 2 of them. Now it just said, Zhou, just Zhou. Not even the full name. The city can't even introduce itself properly. And then I noticed the walls were made of packed dirt. Not stone, not brick, dirt, with straw sticking out of the crumbling parts. Straw. Like someone built a city wall out of the same material as a mud hut. This is supposed to stop nomadic cavalry. Horse warriors with actual weapons versus a wall held together by farm scraps. I dropped the curtain so fast it made a sound effect. This place says Zhou, not Youzhou. Clearly we're in the wrong city. Let's turn around. I missed the 1,000-character classic. Take me back to school. I want to learn. That's how scared I was. I voluntarily asked for the book I'd been reading for 3 years. That's rock bottom. Zhao Bao, as always, pretended I didn't speak. He just started dressing me in the full royal ceremonial outfit. Gold crown, black robe, the works. We're entering the city shortly, Your Highness. Please compose yourself. This is your first appearance before your subjects. Maintain imperial dignity. I stretched my face into the most painful smile of my life. See? Look how happy I am. They set up the full royal procession outside the gates. Flags. Guards. The fancy carriage with the sheer curtains that let people see my silhouette, but not my full face. Very dramatic. Very royal. Very, please don't notice I'm a small child. Now, the people of Youzhou had known for a year that a prince was coming, and they were not thrilled. A new lord usually means new taxes and new problems. Some optimists hoped that having a royal in residence might at least scare off the northern barbarians. Imperial prince with a big army. Sounds intimidating, right? The gates opened. My guards filed in first, lining the streets. Then my procession rolled through. The people knelt along the road, heads down. They'd been yelled at by soldiers not to look up, so I couldn't see their faces. Didn't know if they were hopeful, angry, or just tired. Then a breeze blew my curtain up, and the people of Youzhou saw their new lord and protector, a chubby-cheeked, baby-faced dumpling in an oversized gold crown. I could feel the hope leaving their bodies. Somewhere in that crowd, the guy who'd been telling everyone, "Don't worry, the Emperor's son will protect us from the barbarians," was absolutely getting punched. "You said he'd be a grown man. I thought he would be. Welcome to Youzhou, everyone. Your defender has baby fat and just learned to write his own name 3 years ago. Now, the royal residence. The front gate was incredible. Tall, imposing, beautifully built. I actually felt a spark of hope. Hey, this isn't bad. Way better than. Then I went through the gate. The gate was the whole show. Behind it was nothing. 2 tiny clusters of buildings, my court offices and my living quarters, sitting in the middle of an absolutely enormous empty lot. Like someone bought a mansion-sized piece of land and then could only afford to build a shed in the middle. My mouth hung open for so long a bird could have nested in it. This wasn't a palace. This wasn't even a house. This was a gate with delusions of grandeur and a parking lot behind it. My tutor and prime minister, both experienced men who've seen plenty of royal residences, looked at each other in stunned silence. Then they looked at me standing there with my jaw on the floor and thought, okay, that is kind of adorable. The governor, Jiang Sun, was practically trying to burrow into the ground behind me. Poor man. Here's what happened. He got the order to build a royal residence in 1 year. The imperial budget was exactly the minimum required, not one extra coin, because dad doesn't do bonuses for unfavorite sons. Normal princes get funding from 4 sources: imperial budget, emperor's personal gift, mother's family contribution, and local treasury. I got 1 source. Mom's dead. Mom's family spends every year begging the court for their own military funding. And Youzhou's treasury? Youzhou's treasury is a moth and a sad coin taking turns keeping each other company. Governor Jiang apparently stressed so hard he lost 2 patches of hair, then decided, you know what? I'll just build what I can afford and gamble that the prince is too young to execute me. Bold strategy. And technically correct. I am too young to execute anyone. He'd figured the one advantage of Youzhou was cheap land, so he gave me a huge plot. For walls, for gates, very impressive perimeter. And then, ran out of money to put anything inside it. He and the construction supervisor looked at all that empty space and went, well, he can fill it in later when he's rich, when I'm rich. In Youzhou. Sure, let me just go harvest some money from my straw walls. Prime Minister Shui, Grandpa's secret agent, quietly explained the budget situation, and I calmed down. It's not corruption. Nobody stole anything. There just genuinely wasn't enough money. The one silver lining? The military barracks behind the residence were actually built properly, so at least my 3,000 soldiers had real beds. My kingdom is a glorified empty lot with a nice front door, but hey, the army's comfortable. I'm the prince of nothing, lord of dirt, and owner of the most beautiful gate in northern China. Welcome home, me. When the governor realized I wasn't going to have him executed, the man literally lit up. Like someone told him he won the lottery, and I figured out why pretty quick. Youzhou is a nightmare assignment. As governor of a border city, if the walls get breached, you either die fighting or get executed afterward. It's a lose-lose-die situation. But now that I'm here, a royal prince takes over, and the governor gets transferred. He could be sent to literally anywhere else in the empire, and it'd be an upgrade. There are maybe 3 places worse than Youzhou, and 2 of them are underwater. I turned around and noticed all the local officials were looking at me with tears in their eyes. Actual tears. Grown men, crying with joy at the sight of a 7-year-old. They seem very emotional. I asked Prime Minister Shui, is it because they've never seen royalty before? He couldn't exactly say. They're thrilled because they just dumped their problems on a child. So instead he went with, Your Highness, you are the first royal prince ever assigned to Youzhou in the entire history of the dynasty. Your arrival elevates this city to a national capital. Their excitement is understandable. First prince ever. In 260 years, not a single member of my family looked at Youzhou and thought, yeah, I want that one. And here I am, making history. Yay, got it. But please keep calling me Your Highness instead of Great King. Great King of Youzhou sounds not wealthy. Day 1, rest. Unpack. Try not to cry about the empty palace. Day 2, my very first court session. I sat on my throne at the top of the hall, looking down at my tiny government. Two sad little rows of officials standing in a mostly empty room. It was like a school play version of Dad's Grand Court. But you know what? I thought it was pretty cool. I've never even seen Dad's real court sessions because A, I was too young, and B, Dad cancels court every other day for the most random reasons. So this was technically my first government meeting ever, and I was running it. Me, the kid who studied the alphabet for 3 years. The Prime Minister reported that the new officials we brought needed to quickly learn about Youzhou and take over local administration. Then my tutor, oh no, announced his study plan for me. More school, more waking up early. The man wanted to start teaching me governance and administration. I raised my hand with maximum royal authority and said, education is not urgent. The tutor is a man of great learning and should assist the Prime Minister with the transition first. I also need time to understand Youzhou personally. We'll discuss school. Later, translation, I just escaped the 1,000-character classic. You are not putting me back in a classroom on day 2. The two old men exchanged a look but didn't argue. Smart. Don't make the baby king angry on his first week. They quietly agreed to revisit the topic after things settled down. After dismissing everyone else, I kept my 2 guard commanders behind. Commander Zhang and Deputy Commander Zhao Chuan, Grandpa's inside man. Both in their 30s, both properly respectful. I'd gotten to know them on the road, and neither seemed like the slimy bootlicker type. Though, to be fair, maybe I'm just not important enough to bootlick. Time to be serious for once. I kept you both because I want to talk about training. Youzhou is a border territory. The nearest imperial garrison at Shangguan is far from here. Our 3,000 soldiers are all we've got. And let me be direct. These men were stationed outside peaceful, comfortable Chang'an. Their fitness level is insufficient. Half of them got sick on the road from just traveling. Their stamina is worse than mine, and I'm 7. See, I'd completely forgotten that the city lord's heart was supposed to make me strong and healthy. All I could think about was the city falls, you die part. That really focuses the mind. Commander Zhang looked up at me. Clearly a child, clearly in an oversized throne, and I could see him thinking, royals really do grow up different. Both commanders knelt and swore they'd train the troops hard and protect me with their lives. I gave them my best imperious little sniff. Youzhou borders multiple Xinbei tribes and isn't far from the southern Xiongnu either. Don't kid yourselves. The city was breached just 4 years ago. 4. That's not ancient history. And training isn't just about protecting me. It's about protecting yourselves. If Youzhou falls and I die, Chang'an will have every single one of you executed as punishment. So really, this is a team survival situation. They knelt again, swore harder. I wrapped up with 2 final orders. First, find someone good with horses to teach me to ride. Second, grab a few guards. I'm going out to explore my city. Deputy Commander Zhao immediately volunteered for both tasks. Good man. Grandpa picked well. Business concluded, I stood up from my throne. Or, I tried to stand up. The throne was built for an adult. My feet didn't touch the ground. I had to do a full jumping dismount just to reach the floor. Both commanders watched a 7-year-old who'd just delivered a sobering speech about military preparedness and mutual survival. Bunny hop off a chair twice his size. I put my hands behind my back, strolled out with maximum dignity, and pretended my legs were a perfectly normal length. Nothing embarrassing here. Just a king taking a walk. Very regal. Very tall. Behind me, Zhao Bao whispered to Tong Chun, go find the carpenter. Get that throne replaced. My palace currently has 1 bedroom. 1. It's called Suiyu Hall, and it's where I sleep, exist, and contemplate my life choices. No wives, no concubines. I'm 7. So the governor figured why build more than 1 building? Budget genius strikes again. I changed clothes and told Zhao Bao to stay behind and rest. He obviously didn't rest. He stood under the roof eaves like a human security camera, watching me play in the enormous empty yard. And honestly, being in Youzhou has one perk. Nobody's monitoring my manners anymore. No empress judging my posture. No tutors clicking their tongues. I'm the highest-ranking person in this entire region. I can run. Like, actually run. Arms flailing, full speed, zero dignity. It's glorious. But I wasn't just running for fun. I had a mission. I gradually steered my playing toward the stables, getting further and further from Zhao Bao. The second I saw him turn to talk to two little eunuchs, and his figure got small enough, I bolted to the stable door, whipped out my game panel, found the horse icon, and hit use. Flash of white light. There she was, my chestnut mare, standing in the stable looking absolutely magnificent next to the regular horses, who suddenly looked like donkeys at a beauty pageant. The palace carriage horses, supposedly high-quality animals, were short, stumpy, and ugly by comparison. And my horse was labeled beginner mount. Beginner. If this is the starter horse, what does the advanced one look like? Does it fly? She was tall, muscular, with a flowing mane that moved like a shampoo commercial. And she was covered in strange, beautiful decorations I'd never seen before. Weird leather seat thing on her back, metal loops hanging from the sides, iron shoes on her hooves. No idea what any of it was, but it looked expensive. This is the kind of horse a king should ride. Meanwhile, Zhao Bao looked up from his conversation, and his king had vanished from the yard. Full panic mode. He grabbed the eunuchs and sprinted across the empty lot, which, for once, was actually useful because there's nowhere to hide in a palace with no buildings. He spotted me hanging off the stable door, trying to peek inside, and exhaled his entire soul in relief. Your Highness, what are you doing here? Stables smell terry. Wait. What is that horse? Even Zhao Bao, who's seen everything the imperial palace has to offer, was stunned. Now came the important part, the cover story. I tilted my head with maximum innocent baby face energy. Isn't this from the local officials? A welcome gift? Zhao Bao, pull it out. I want to learn riding on this one. He bought it. He completely bought it. He even started wondering if he'd underestimated Youzhou's wealth. Could this be one of those legendary Youzhou celestial horses? The stable hand was not buying it. He'd been in that stable all morning, and there was absolutely no horse there before. I could see the confusion forming on his face, so I steamrolled him before he could open his mouth. You. Yes, you. Prepare a private stall. My horse gets its own room from now on. Single occupancy. The man dropped to his knees. Question successfully suppressed. Then Deputy Commander Zhao Chuan showed up and immediately forgot why he was there, because, horse. Warriors can't resist a beautiful horse. It's like a law of nature. He, Zhao Bao, and the eunuch started circling my mare like kids around a new toy. What's this cushion thing on its back? The craftsmanship is incredible. There's embroidery on it. Is this thing for stepping on to climb up? Your Highness, there's two of these hanging things. One on each side. They were discovering the saddle, the stirrups, and the horseshoes, none of which apparently exist in this world yet. My beginner mount came pre-equipped with technology centuries ahead of its time. Casual. I named the horse Little Date because she's chestnut-colored. Like a date. Get it? Zhao Chuan, a 9-foot-tall battle-hardened soldier, looked at this majestic war horse named Little Date with an expression of physical pain. I'm pretty sure his face said, "This is a crime against horses. They tried to get me on Little Date." The stirrups were useless. My legs were too short to reach them. Zhao Chuan had to physically lift me onto the saddle like loading a sack of rice. Then Zhao Bao led the horse from the front. Zhao Chuan walked alongside for safety instruction, and the eunuch Heguang covered the other side. 3 grown men forming a human barrier around one very small king on one very large horse. I sat up there and thought, hey, this is actually comfortable. Riding isn't hard at all, which is easy to say when you're essentially being carried by 3 adults on a horse that's doing all the work. When Little Date's hooves hit the stone path, clack, 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 Zhao Chuan literally dove to the ground to examine her feet. He found the horseshoes, and his brain nearly exploded. He stared at the stirrups, stared at my short legs, stared at the stirrups again. I could see the gears turning. If the rider's legs were long enough to reach these hanging step things, they could stabilize themselves completely. Maybe even fight with both hands free. And the iron shoes protect the hooves, which means warhorses could serve longer. Meanwhile, little eunuch Heguang looked at the same horseshoes and thought, wow, clacky sounds. Very fancy. Worthy of His Highness's horse. Bless his heart. Zhao Chuan was practically vibrating with excitement. Your Highness, who made these? This craftsman is a genius. Inside my head. Well, you see, a glowing magical floating rectangle gave them to me. I believe it's called Capital City, Dream of Prosperity. It's sort of a game for building cities. I got the horse from a starter pack, along with a curse that kills me if my city falls. Anyway, outside my head, Cool nod. Yes, quite good. The saddle is comfortable too. You have my permission to copy the design for yourself? Thank you, Your Highness. If we equipped your entire cavalry with these, they could fight on horseback with both hands. It would be revolutionary, my cavalry. 500 horsemen out of my 3,000 guards. I was busy enjoying the ride and only caught the words, kill enemies, and, more powerful, small hand wave. Approved. And that's how I accidentally introduced stirrups and horseshoes to ancient China because I wanted a pony ride. Zhao Chuan wouldn't let me ride Little Date through town because I'd learned approximately 0 actual riding skills. So back into the carriage I went. I had this grand vision of going undercover among my people, casually chatting with locals, getting the vibe of my new kingdom. But it turns out a fancy carriage followed by a column of soldiers isn't exactly blending in. Everyone saw us coming and scattered like pigeons. Whatever. Talking to people became the least of my concerns, because I left through the west gate and saw what Youzhou actually looks like. Yesterday's arrival route? Staged. The government had cleaned that street within an inch of its life and handpicked the best-dressed citizens to kneel along the road. It was basically a movie set. Welcome, Your Highness. Everything is fine here, real Youzhou? Dirt roads full of holes. Dust everywhere. Houses that were basically piles of straw pretending to be buildings. People in rags who looked like they hadn't eaten a full meal in months. And this is the capital city, not some forgotten village. This is supposed to be the best part of my territory. I lifted the carriage curtain for a better look and got hit in the face by a smell so aggressive it should be classified as a weapon. Some kind of animal waste? Human waste? All waste. My nose filed for divorce from my face. Zhao Bao. Am I going to starve to death here? Am I going to be the first prince in history to die of hunger in his own territory? Zhao Bao dropped to his knees inside the carriage, apologized for being useless, and tried to comfort me. I was too panicked for comfort. We raced back to the palace, and I went straight to the study. Zhao Bao. Ink. Now. Oh, is Your Highness going to practice calligraphy? I'm writing to Dad. He needs to know about this. I sprawled across the desk and wrote the most carefully crafted letter of my young life. Drafted it, edited it, then copied the whole thing in my best handwriting. Allow me to translate. Dearest father, your son has safely arrived in Youzhou. The journey was long and dangerous, but thanks to the soldiers you so generously provided, I survived. Upon arriving, I discovered that Youzhou is very far from your glorious capital. So far, in fact, that your brilliant governance hasn't quite reached here yet. The children are skinny and dressed in rags. Seeing them made me so grateful that Father raised me so well and kept me fed and chubby. Don't worry, Father. I will be very careful with the money and grain you gave me. I will stretch every coin so I can stay alive as long as possible. Please don't forget about me. I miss you. Father. Translation of the translation. Please send more money. I'm going to die out here. When this masterpiece reached the capital, I'm told the officials who sort the mail read it and got a collective toothache from all the sweetness. No idea what Dad thought. Probably rolled his eyes. But you miss every shot you don't take. Letter done. I checked my game panel. The data collection progress bar now read 12%. I counted on my fingers. That leaves 88. Math is hard, but even I can handle subtraction when my life depends on it. So basically, my journey from the main road into Youzhou City had automatically scanned everything within 100 li around me. To finish the quest, I just need to walk around the entire territory, like a human scanner on legs. The reward was a 3D terrain map. Whatever that means, sounds boring, and a new royal residence. That second one. Very interested. If my magic game panel can produce a horse that makes real horses look like sad ponies, imagine what kind of palace it could generate. Then I wouldn't need to spend money building in this empty lot, and I could use that money for food, which is currently my #1 priority. Above safety, above dignity. Food. With a goal in sight, I made myself a to-do list. Step 1. Learn to actually ride Little Date. Step 2. Ride around all of Youzhou to complete the scan. Simple. Execution? Not simple. They shortened the stirrups to fit my legs, which helped. But the size difference between me and Little Date was so ridiculous that nobody would let me ride alone. 3 adults surrounded me at all times like a royal baby fence. I rode until my butt was screaming and still never got above a gentle walk. Giving up on horse glory for the day, I went to find Prime Minister Shui. Why is Youzhou so different from Chang'an? The streets are falling apart. The people are in rags. Are they lazy? Is nobody farming? Because I saw a lot of empty land on the way in. Shui put down his paperwork and explained it to me in small words. Your Highness cannot compare Youzhou to Chang'an. The capital collects wealth from the entire empire. Nobles, merchants, everyone's money flows there. Youzhou is remote, borders foreign tribes, and its economy is still developing, is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Okay then, figure out a plan. Get people to farm more land. Because I eat a lot and I'm very picky. I'm high maintenance and I know it. Then I hit him with the real question. The one that keeps me up at night. The one directly connected to city falls, you die. Can our city walls stop the Xinbei or Xiongnu cavalry? Silence. Of course they can't. Those walls can barely stop a strong wind. Straw is holding them together. Straw. The old walls are indeed inadequate for a national capital. Rebuilding them will take considerable time and resources. I'll bring this up at the next court meeting. The old governor didn't skip repairs because he was lazy. He skipped them because he was broke. This is a problem money solves, and money is the one thing nobody here has. But Shui seemed genuinely impressed that a not-quite 7-year-old was thinking about walls and farming instead of toys. I could see his permanent worry frown relax a tiny bit. Here's Youzhou's problem in a nutshell. No farmland, no trees, no salt mines, no money, no people, no nothing. The sea is right there, but apparently even the fish are better next door in Yuyang. Everything that could generate wealth is either missing or belongs to the neighboring territory. Youzhou is poor, and it has receipts to prove it. I put my hands on my hips as I walked out and delivered my final royal decree for the day. Shui, take what I said seriously. The city walls are important, but the king starving to death is more important. The prime minister's face went through a journey. I think I broke him a little. But hey, at least he knows my priorities now. First order of business as king of Youzhou, farming reform. Because if nobody grows food, everybody starves, and everybody includes me. Here's what I came up with, and honestly, it's pretty genius for a 7-year-old. Free land for everyone. Any family can claim 5 acres of unclaimed wasteland, clear it, and start farming. You get a temporary deed, and if you keep farming for 5 years, it becomes yours. Permanently. Your land. Forever. And the tax deal? Year 1, 0 tax. Year 2, 10%. Years 3 through 5, 20%. After 5 years when you officially own it, then normal imperial tax rates kick in. Big families can even apply for extra acres. I sat back and admired my own policy. This is great. I'm basically a tiny agricultural genius. The people are going to love this. The people did not love this. Well, they talked about it a lot. Lots of excited discussion. Lots of, wow, really? But when it came time to actually grab a hoe and go clear some dirt, crickets. Almost nobody showed up. Turns out my subjects have the exact same problem I do. Zero confidence that any of this will last. The farmland is outside the city walls. The same walls held together by straw and prayers. Bandits roam the countryside freely. And every now and then the neighbors, as in literal nomadic warriors, pop over when they're hungry and take whatever they want. So the farmers are thinking, why bust my back clearing 5 acres just so some bandit can waltz in and steal my harvest? Can't even blame them. I'd think the same thing. I went to inspect the city walls personally. Stood at the base, hands on my chubby hips, looking up at my so-called defenders, and the soldiers guarding this wall were old. Like ancient old. White beards. Wrinkled faces. If someone attacked, I genuinely worried one of them might get too excited, faint, and fall off the wall. Back in the palace, eunuchs this age were retired. Here they're supposedly my first line of defense. I'm not the only one who has no confidence in you guys. My people don't trust you either. The gate captain, Wang Meng, stepped forward and tried to explain. Your Highness might not understand, but Youzhou's city guard was never meant to stop the northern tribes. That's the job of General Liang Jin at Shangguan Pass. If the Xinbei or Xiongnu attack, the general will send his army. Youzhou is actually very safe. Yes, the city fell 4 years ago, but the general came right after and took it back. I wanted to roll my eyes so badly. Where did that reflex even come from? I've never done it before in my life. Weird. Great plan, Captain. The city falls, we all die, and then the general shows up afterward to recapture our corpses. Very reassuring. Except, And I cannot stress this enough. I will be dead by then. Do I look like someone who can come back from the dead? Nobody in this room understands my situation. City falls, I literally die. Magically. Instantly. The general swooping in 3 days later to avenge me does nothing for my continued existence. Are you the Prince of Youzhou? Or am I? Wang Ming hit the floor apologizing. I gave him his orders. Kick out the old and weak soldiers. Recruit real fighters. Train them properly. I want them capable. I want them dangerous. And if you can't do it, Zhao Chuan here will happily take your job. Wang Ming's face crumpled. But Your Highness, these are veterans. They fought real battles for the Empire. If we dismiss them, they'll have no way to feed themselves. Oh no. He's right. These aren't random old guys. They're retired soldiers who bled for this country. Kicking them out means taking away their only income. They'd starve. So I can't keep them because they're too old to fight. And I can't fire them because they'll die in poverty. And I can't pay them a retirement pension because I have no money. No people. No money. No grain. No functional army. No wall. No solution. I looked down at my little hands on my little hips and realized even my power stance wasn't feeling very powerful anymore. I patted my chubby waist. The only resource I'm not short on right now is body fat. Fine. Tonight, I'll eat less. Save a mouthful here, a mouthful there. Every grain counts when you're the poorest king in the empire. Dad, I miss you. Please remember I exist. Please send literally anything. A letter, a coin, a snack. Dad, with nothing else to do, I spent my days poking every single pixel of my game panel and writing little date. The game wouldn't let me do anything until I finished the beginner quest, and the beginner quest required me to physically walk around my entire territory like a medieval Google Street View car. Spring planting season arrived, and my farming policy was not exactly taking off. People were talking about it, sure, but actually going outside the walls to dig dirt? Still mostly a no. Which is a problem, because Dad's care package money won't last forever, and once it runs out, I'm eating whatever Youzhou can produce. My honey-glazed deer and braised lamb future depends on these people picking up shovels. So at the next court meeting, I announced, I'm going on a border inspection tour. Personally, to see my territory with my own eyes. The reaction was immediate and unanimous. Absolutely not. 3 voices in perfect harmony. The empty hall even gave them an echo. It was like a sad concert. Prime Minister Xue. A royal tour would be expensive and drain resources from an already poor region. Translation: everywhere you go, local officials will scramble to host you and go broke doing it. Tutor Su, Your Highness should focus on studying. Books contain all the governance wisdom you need. Translation: please just sit down and read something for once in your life. Commander Zhang, bandits are everywhere. Your life is at stake. No translation needed. Refreshingly direct. I took a deep breath. How am I supposed to know what Youzhou is really like if I sit in this palace? If I hadn't gone outside, I'd still think the streets were as clean as they were on arrival day. I wouldn't know the road ruts are filled with sheep poop. I wouldn't know the wall guards are all senior citizens. And I wouldn't know that the people in this city don't wash their faces. Prime Minister Xue's expression. Concern, then confusion, then, what was that last part? Tutor Su stroked his beautiful beard thoughtfully. Your Highness, they truly don't wash their faces? Zhao Bao stepped in to explain. The groundwater in Youzhou is very deep. Most families can't afford to dig wells, so they have to buy water. Some poorer families, indeed, do not wash their faces. They accumulate a thick layer of grime and only wipe it off when they have somewhere important to go. Tutor Su, who comes from a noble family, looked like someone had told him the sky was actually green. His brain simply could not process this information. My argument was bulletproof, and everyone knew it. Plus, it was the best travel season in the north. Mild weather, long days. The trip was approved. But compromise. We'd go undercover. No royal procession, no flags, no fanfare. I'd pretend to be a young nobleman on a study trip. Tutor Su would be my teacher. Everyone else would be servants and bodyguards. Just a rich kid seeing the countryside. Nothing suspicious about a 7-year-old with 30 armed men. I was so excited. Back in my room, I flipped through the Youzhou Gazetteer about 15 times, planning routes, imagining adventures. This trip would let me explore, complete my game quest, and actually understand my territory. Triple win. Departure day. Up before dawn. Tied little date to the side of the carriage so she could trot alongside. We slipped out the west gate of the palace, through the city, and into the wild. My excitement lasted approximately half a day. See, the one decent road in all of Youzhou is the main highway I arrived on. The moment we left that road, we entered what I can only describe as a war crime against transportation. Bumps, holes, rocks, mud, more holes. The carriage didn't roll, it suffered. My butt suffered with it. When I have money, I'm building proper roads across all of Youzhou. Flat, smooth, long and straight. Everywhere. Tutor Sue, bouncing along beside me. It's good for your highness to have dreams. HMPH, the one bright spot. My map progress counter actually moved. Different direction from my arrival route. So new territory was getting scanned. My plan was to head south to the coast, swing north to the border, then loop back west to the city. Full coverage. Maximum data collection. That night we stayed in a village called Shahizi, sleeping at the village chief's house. The only building in the entire village that didn't have a straw roof. That's the local luxury suite. Dinner was bean rice and cold wild vegetables. The rice had no actual rice in it, just beans. It smelled weird, wasn't cooked soft enough. The guard said they skimp on firewood to save money, and tasted like sadness. I pulled out my little handmade journal and wrote by candlelight. May 3rd, clear weather. The yellow dust flew extra high today. When Youzhou gets rich, I will build roads everywhere. Tutor laughed at me. Spent the night at the village chief's house in Shahizi. Only non-straw roof building in town. Dinner, bean rice and cold wild greens. The bean rice had no rice, smelled fishy, and wasn't soft. Guards say they don't cook it long enough because firewood is expensive. I miss the palace kitchen. I miss my sister's osmanthus cakes, 7 years old, sleeping in the fanciest dirt house in a dirt village, eating beans that taste like regret, writing in my diary by candlelight about how much I miss cake. This is my kingdom. This is my life. Before we left Shahizi village, I tried chatting with the village chief's 8-year-old grandson. You know, kid to kid, bond with my people, understand the common folk. Do you go to school? What's the point of school? Well, it teaches you right from wrong. Does knowing right from wrong help me run faster when the barbarians come? I had no answer for that. So, what do you want to be when you grow up? Full, not a profession, not a dream, just full. As in, I want to eat enough food to not be hungry. That's the entire ambition. My face turned red. Conversation over. I literally could not continue. Here I am, a chubby royal dumpling who's never missed a meal, asking a starving kid about his career goals. Next morning we left early. I was quiet the whole time, which is unusual for me. Then I suddenly said, Zhao Bao, someday I'm going to make sure everyone in Youzhou can eat their fill. Do you believe me, Zhao Bao, my #1 hype man? Of course. I believe your highness can do it. I looked at him. Sighed. I don't even believe myself. I'm a near-illiterate child king who doesn't know anything. What am I going to do? Wish the hunger away. I quietly decided that when I get back, I'm actually going to study. For real this time. No more yawning through class. We headed south, toward the coast. The wind picked up, carrying that salty ocean smell. We were getting close to the sea, and to a place called Dragon Head County. County is extremely generous. Standing on a hill looking down at it, it was basically a fishing village wearing a county's name tag. It had a wall, and I used that word loosely, made of packed earth that didn't even reach adult height. A decent horse could jump over it. A motivated child could probably climb it. Every single roof was made of seagrass. Not one tile in the entire settlement. Tutor, their houses looked different from the others. Tutor Sue explained that Dragon Head County used to be famous for pearl diving. Their pearls were so beautiful they were imperial tribute, gifts sent directly to the emperor every year. Did your highness ever hear of Youzhou pearls in the palace? Nope. I'm 7 and male. Pearls weren't really on my radar. That's expected. The tribute stopped over a decade ago. A county magistrate died over it. He told me the whole story. Pearl diving was a death sentence. Underwater currents dragged divers away. Deep water pressure crushed their lungs. Pearls grow slowly, but the quota never changed. The divers stripped the shallow waters clean and had to go deeper and deeper, dying in greater and greater numbers. Eventually, they couldn't meet the quota no matter how many people they sacrificed. The county magistrate begged the regional governor to cancel the pearl tribute. The governor was furious and had him executed. When the magistrate died, the entire county wore white mourning clothes. The scandal got so big it reached the previous emperor in Chang'an, who finally canceled the tribute. One magistrate's death is in the history books. Countless pearl divers' deaths aren't. I jumped in before Tutor could ask me anything awkward. I don't like pearls. I'll never make them dive again. Your Highness is truly kind-hearted. A blessing for Youzhou. He kept going. Without the pearl trade, the county survived on fishing alone, barely. And the empire kept drafting their young men into the border army. In just 10 to 15 years, the place collapsed into what we were looking at now. The wind suddenly sounded very sad. Tutor knows a lot. I visited this place 7 or 8 years ago, before entering government service. The walls were in better shape then. Great. So it's gotten worse. Thank you for that update. We entered the county. The main street had maybe 2 shops, one selling fabric, one selling rice. That's the entire commercial district. No one anywhere. In this county, that was really a village. Our group stuck out like a diamond in a mud puddle. Big tough guards surrounding a carriage with a magnificent horse tied to it. Every local stared. Some shady characters on the street corners were eyeing little Date with the kind of look that gets you killed. Commander Zhang Death glared each one of them into backing off. My butt was destroyed from the mountain roads. I demanded to walk. The second my feet touched the ground, I was off, sprinting toward the ocean like a puppy released from a cage. Forget the inn. I've never seen the sea. The sea comes first. The group split up. Zhao Bao went to find lodging. Tutor Su sighed the sigh of a man who's given up on controlling anything, and followed me toward the water. By the time my short legs carried me to where I could actually see the ocean, it was nearly sunset. And then, wow, the sea was enormous. Silent, endless, waves crashing white against the rocks, a seabird crying somewhere in the distance. I scrambled up a big boulder on hands and knees. My guards surrounded the base with their arms out like they were catching a falling baby, and I stood on top and just stared. The sunset was sinking into the water. The entire ocean turned gold. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my 7 years of life. The grasslands we'd passed on the way here were impressive, but this was something else entirely. I love the ocean. I sat up there thinking about how that same beautiful water had killed all those pearl divers. How it's deep enough to crush a human body, yet grows pearls and seagrass and feeds entire villages with fish. Beautiful and deadly, generous and cruel. I was having a genuine philosophical moment when I heard. Crying? Who's crying at the beach? Did someone else get overwhelmed by the sunset? I looked down. My guards were all staring up at me, arms still extended. Not them. I scanned further and spotted a group coming from a nearby village. A woman and 2 large men, each dragging 2 small children by the hand. The kids were sobbing and looking backward. One was fighting desperately to pull free. Behind them, about 15 steps back, an old man with a cane was hobbling after them, unable to keep up. My brain cycled through possibilities at top speed. Kidnapping? Child stealing? In broad. Okay, it's almost dark. But still, I planted one hand on my hip, pointed dramatically at them with the other, and bellowed from my rock. Halt. It's nearly dark and you think you can just steal children? Tutor Su behind me. Internal screaming because obviously, people don't kidnap kids by casually strolling out of a village in plain sight. These children were sold. The woman confirmed it with a spit on the ground. These are legal slaves I paid real money for. Mind your own business, little boy. I planted both hands on my hips, full power stance on top of my rock, and interrogated that woman. Don't try to fool me. The whole way here I've seen poor families sell their daughters. This is the first time I've seen them sell boys this young. And what about that old man chasing you? Still gonna tell me you didn't steal them? The woman, a broker, turns out, was intimidated enough by my wall of guards to actually explain. These boys are being sold to the palace. This is a border region, little sir. Poor boys here just grow up to be drafted into the army and die anyway. Better to sell them as palace eunuchs. The family gets money, and the kid might actually survive. Girls stay home because they can mend fishing nets and dive for pearls. My pupils literally shook. Sold to the palace. As eunuchs. That means. I grew up in that palace. I know what being a eunuch means. These kids are my age, 7, 8 years old, and they're about to have their entire futures permanently altered. And someone told their parents this was the good option? The old man caught up while we were talking. He threw himself around one of the boys, the one who'd been fighting hardest to break free, and sobbed. Give me back my Hua. Please. Don't sell him there. I'll kowtow. I'll beg. The thug holding Hua kicked the old man. Money's been paid. Too late for refunds. Get lost. I had Zhang Tong step in immediately. This was my business now. Tutor Su, seeing that I was absolutely not going to walk away, switched into diplomat mode and helped sort out the situation. Here's the story. Hua's father died at sea. The family was broke. His uncle and aunt sold him to this broker lady, who claimed to have government connections to get boys into the palace for a better life. Better life? I'm the emperor's son, and even I didn't think the palace was that great. I spent my whole childhood reading people's moods and dodging political landmines. What kind of luxury are these kids going to get as the lowest-ranking eunuchs? They'd be scrubbing floors until they're dead. The old man clung to Hua, crying that this was his eldest son's only child, the last of his bloodline. He couldn't let the boy be sent to that place. Between the grandfather wailing and Hua screaming and the other kids all crying louder and louder, it was a full-on symphony of misery. Standing on my rock surrounded by weeping children, I did what any self-respecting 7-year-old king would do. How much? I'm buying them all. Tutor Su frantically signaled me with his eyes. He thought I was being naive. Most of these kids' parents sold them willingly. If I bought them and sent them home, their families would just sell them again tomorrow. I'd be throwing away money for nothing. But I am not an easy mark. When it comes to my personal savings, I am razor sharp. I already thought of that. If I buy them and send them home, their parents resell them. I waste 20-something silver. Kids end up eunuchs anyway, and I'm the only loser. Absolutely not. Ahem. What I meant was, instead of selling them to the palace, sell them to me. They won't become eunuchs. I'll take all 6. How much? The broker didn't want to lose her merchandise, but she'd brought a knife to a sword fight. My sword fight. Zhang Tong, on my signal, unsheathed his blade with maximum dramatic effect. How much? Silver? Tutor Su quietly died inside. F5 taels each. TH30 total. One of the barefoot kids, still crying, shouted, Liar. You only paid my dad 3 taels. Oh ho ho. I like this kid. Smart under pressure. I nodded approvingly and told Tongchen, give her 20 taels. That's 3 per kid times 6, plus 2 taels for her trouble. The broker handed over the ownership documents, cursing under her breath the whole time. She'd expected to make 20 taels profit on this trip. Instead, she spent days negotiating purchases across multiple villages and ended up with 2 measly taels because some pint-sized bully with bodyguards decided to play hero. I checked that Tongchen had secured all 6 contracts, then turned to the old man. Take Hua and go home. Tell the other families their kids are with me now. They won't become eunuchs. I'm sending them to the Prince of Youzhou's residence in Youzhou City to work as servants. If the families ever get enough money, they can come buy them back. The old man understood perfectly. The money his younger son took was gone. No getting that back. But his grandson was alive, intact, and staying in Youzhou instead of being shipped to the capital. That's hitting the jackpot. He hugged Hua, crying, telling him to work hard, stay alive, and maybe they'd see each other again someday. Even I got a little choked up. But I didn't offer to send Hua home with Grandpa. The boy is too young to survive in a fishing village alone. His uncle and aunt sold him once. They'd do it again the second Grandpa's back was turned. At least with me, he's safe. Next time there won't be a crazy rich kid on a rock to save him. When Zhao Bao found us, I was beaming with pride. Zhao Bao, guess what? I bought 6 people for only 20 taels. They can all be your apprentices. Good deal, right? Zhao Bao's face. Your Highness is so capable. Zhao Bao's brain. 6 children. 20 taels is cheap, sure. But they're tiny. We'll have to feed and house them for 10 years before they're useful. We just adopted 6 mouths to feed in the poorest territory in the empire. That night, I wrote in my little journal by candlelight. May 11th, Dragon Head County, by the sea. The ocean wind smells salty. The sea is beautiful. The fish is fresh. Here you can buy a child my age for 3 taels of silver. But they're only half as wide as me. Heard the story of the Youzhou pearls. I don't like pearls anymore. Early morning the tide pulled way back, and all the fishermen rushed out to collect whatever the sea left behind. Did I join them? Of course not. I'm royalty. I woke up at my normal time, which meant by the time I got to the beach, all the adults were gone. Only kids were left, picking through the scraps that the grown-ups didn't bother with. tiny shells, little fish, stuffed to feed chickens. I launched myself at that beach like a cannonball. This was my first time touching sand, seeing tide pools, watching kids hunt for sea creatures. I bounced around following the local children, trying to see what they were doing. They mostly scattered the second I got close. The weird chubby kid in expensive clothes was apparently terrifying. Zhao Bao and Tutor Su watched from behind, smiling warmly. Look at him, acting like a normal child for once. Tutor was especially proud of me after yesterday's rescue mission. In his eyes, I could do no wrong today. That lasted about 4 minutes. AAGH, I had spotted a crab. A big one, hiding behind a rock. Palm-sized. Beautiful. I'd only ever seen crabs cooked at palace banquets. Orange and delicious and very, very dead. This one was alive. I grabbed it. It grabbed me back. The scream I produced could have been heard in Chang'an. That crab clamped onto my finger with the fury of a tiny, armored warrior and refused to let go. I'm shaking my hand. I'm howling. The crab is just dangling there like, I live here now. A local kid named Wanxie ran over, grabbed my hand, and dragged me straight into the ocean. He shoved my hand underwater, and the crab finally released me like, fine, I've made my point. Wanxie looked at me like I was the dumbest creature he'd ever encountered. That crab has no meat in it, and it pinches hard. Why would you grab it? That you're dumber than my little brother. I was standing there cradling my hand with tears streaming down my face. But crabs are delicious. Also, thank you for saving me. Zhao Bao came sprinting over in full panic. Young master, are you okay? I held up my finger with maximum tragedy. My hand is broken. That crab severed my finger. I'm maimed. Zhao Bao grabbed my hand, turned it over, examined every angle, and nothing. Not a scratch. Not a mark. Not even a red spot. He shot Tutor Su a look that clearly said, His Highness is a bit dramatic. He's completely fine. I was baffled. That crab pinched me so hard I saw my ancestors. Where's the wound? Where's the blood? I should be missing a finger. I turned my little fat hand over and over, searching for the injury that absolutely definitely happened. Then, lightning bolt moment. I remembered the city lord's heart. Impervious to blades. Impervious to blades. A crab pincer is basically a tiny blade, right? So it hurt like death, but left 0 damage? Is that how this works? I walked down the beach mumbling to myself about what a scam this game is. Impervious to blades. Sounds incredible until you realize it means you feel all the pain but get none of the injuries. So what's the point? My butt has been hurting from carriage rides this entire trip. Couldn't the magic invincibility help with that? Pain on. Damage. OFF. What kind of terrible design is this? After my crab defeat, I remembered I was supposed to be doing actual work, understanding local conditions. So I went back to find my rescuer Wanxie and turned on maximum charm. The kid was half a head taller than me, so naturally I called him Big Brother every other sentence. Zhao Bao nearly choked watching me. In the palace, I treated my actual brothers like mild inconveniences. Here I was sweet-talking a fisherman's kid like he was my favorite person alive. If I'd used this energy on the Prince of You, Big Brother might have begged me to stay. Big Brother Wan, I'm traveling with my teacher on a study trip. This is my first time seeing the ocean. Your home is so wonderful. Wanxie barely talked. An occasional grunt. He'd clearly never met anyone this aggressively friendly. Once we got far enough from the adults, he loosened up a bit. Doubt what's a study trip? It means you can't just stay home reading books forever. That's called dead studying, disconnected from real life. You have to go see the world. I studied for a few years, barely learned to read, and now my teacher brought me out here to learn from experience. Big Brother, do you go to school? School is pointless. I'm going to be a great general. Wow. Amazing. I know you can do it, Big Brother. Flattery deployed. Target softened. Now for the intelligence extraction. So, Big Brother, how much farmland does your family have? Is there enough food? I heard the prince is letting every family claim 5 free acres with no tax for the first year. We don't have farmland. It's all sand here. If I don't become a general, I'll just fish. There's no land to farm. Within minutes, I had extracted this child's entire family profile. How many people in his household? Where his aunt married off to? What they eat? What they don't eat? Everything. This kid never stood a chance against my interrogation techniques. Before leaving, I had Tongqin give Wanxie my copy of the 1,000-character classic, the very book I'd been forced to read for 3 years. You should learn to read this whole thing, big brother. It's required for becoming a great general in our empire. That's technically a lie. But if it gets this kid to learn to read, I'll take it. Lunch was at Dragon Head County's only restaurant. We ordered every type of fish they had, which, despite being right next to the ocean, wasn't that many varieties. Mostly just fish. Different fish, but fish. We were one of only 2 tables with customers. The owner served us personally, grinning the entire time like we'd saved his business. Which we probably did. The food was incredible. Freshest fish I've ever tasted. In Chang'an, this variety would be impossible. Everything arrived dried or salted after weeks of transport. Here it was swimming an hour ago. Full belly, brain working at half speed. I asked, "Tutor, if the fish here is this good, why not sell it in Chang'an? Rich people would pay a fortune. Why is this place so poor?" Tutor Su patiently asked. "And what did your highness think of yesterday's mountain roads?" Oh, the roads. The awful, bumpy, barely existing roads. The fish would be a skeleton by the time it reached the next county, let alone Chang'an, 1,000 miles away. And just like that, a revolutionary concept planted itself in my 7-year-old brain, fully formed and permanent. If you want to get rich, build roads first. That night's diary entry, May 12th. Dragon Head County. Met a big brother who saved my hand from a crab. He wants to be a great general. He said being a general means you probably live longer than being a fisherman. He said every family in the village has lost someone to the sea. Someone who went out and never came back. He wants to live long enough to protect his mom and little sister. I hope he lives forever too. I don't know why, but my face is turning red again. We followed the coastline east, and every fishing village was the same story. Poor, skinny, depressing. The fishermen who stayed near shore caught small fish and barely survived. The ones who went out for the big fish, the ones worth real money as dried fish, sometimes didn't come back. The ocean giveth, and the ocean taketh your dad. Now, along the rocky shores I kept noticing these huge mussels covering the rocks. Dense clusters of them everywhere, just sitting there, fat and plump. Tutor, can we eat these? They look so meaty. Tutor Su barely glanced over. Those are green-lipped mussels. The fishermen knock them off to feed chickens sometimes. Never heard of people eating them. Chicken food. But something deep in my gut, some instinct I can't explain, was screaming that humans could eat these. Well then, I'll just try one. Before anyone could stop me, I bit into a raw mussel. Blue. Turns out raw mussel tastes like licking the ocean floor. Pure concentrated fish stink. Not the delicate flavor I'd imagined. Zhao Bao came running with water like I'd just swallowed poison, face completely white with terror. Relax. Chickens eat them, so they're not toxic. I can eat them too. I'm fine. I'm also literally immune to poison thanks to my game cheat, so I was the perfect taste tester. Not that I could tell anyone that. After that stunt, Zhao Bao went from watching from a distance to physically hovering within arm's reach at all times. I had Commander Zhang pry off some big ones with his military-grade sword, because that's a dignified use of imperial weaponry. At lunch we stopped at a fisherman's house, and the wife was totally calm about cooking them. Apparently locals eat mussels occasionally. They just think they're mildly poisonous. Eat 1 or 2, fine. Eat more, stomach pain. So they only eat them when they're literally starving. She cooked them up, the shells popped open revealing plump red meat, and Zhao Bao taste tested first. His eyes widened. Actually, this is really good. He gave me one. Just one. I savored it, and then, because I am at heart a food critic trapped in a 7-year-old's body, I announced, the meat should be removed from the shell and tossed in a sweet vinegar dressing. Served cold. Zhao Bao stared at me, then at the fisherman's family who clearly didn't own sugar, then back at me. Tutor Su, meanwhile, nodded thoughtfully. The young master makes an excellent point. Zhang Tong ignored everyone and slurped down 3 or 4. Warrior's stomach. Different rules. 3 more days along the coast. Map progress, 50%. Halfway there. Then we turned north, and I discovered something wonderful about my territory. The people here are insane. We stopped for the night in a tiny village of maybe 50 houses in the middle of nowhere. Remote. No government presence. No law. Just vibes. Turns out this village had a charming little side business. They were part-time bandits. Any merchant unlucky enough to wander through their village got robbed. Location, location, location. They were so far from any officials that nobody ever caught them. They took one look at our group, a dozen guards, a fancy carriage, and hesitated. But then they saw Little Date. Little Date, my gorgeous, magnificent, one-of-a-kind horse that looks like she descended from heaven. The village chief's thought process: if we steal that horse and sell it, the entire village eats well this year. Decision made. Attack. Their plan was actually clever. They sent a cute 5-year-old kid to befriend me and lure me outside, because apparently I look like someone who'd follow a random child into the dark. Which, honestly, I might have. I was trying to chat with every kid I met. But Commander Zhang noticed the ambush, a bunch of villagers lurking in the bushes outside our courtyard, whispering to each other and being about as subtle as a house fire. These people were amateur bandits. They might as well have been wearing signs that said, "We're robbing you." When my guards pulled their regulation military swords off the carriage in one synchronized shing, the villagers realized they'd picked the wrong target. A few got nicked before they all surrendered. Honestly, they weren't evil, just hungry and desperate and monumentally stupid. They knelt there swearing they'd never killed anyone, just roughed people up and took their stuff. The whole village was on their knees, skinny, ragged, terrified. I couldn't execute them. They're my people. Terrible people, but mine. I pulled out one of Prime Minister Shue's calling cards and waved it around. The new prince's prime minister is my relative. I'm going to tell him to send people to watch your Qishui village specifically. If you rob one more merchant, your entire village gets dragged to Youzhou city for hard labor. They're rebuilding the city walls, and they need workers. You'll be breaking rocks until you die. They were scared enough to listen, so I pivoted to career counseling. Why not just farm? The new prince is giving away free land. The responses were educational, 5 years and then a deed, for free. Who believes that? Mountain land used to cost 2 taels an acre. Now it's free and no taxes for 5 years. If that's true, my whole family will kowtow to this prince every single day. Officials have stolen our land before. Land without a deed. They'll just take it when harvest comes. The government owns all unclaimed land. What if I spend a year clearing it, and then they change the rules? They didn't trust the government at all. And honestly, based on what I'd seen of how officials treated these people, I couldn't blame them. I was too small to be convincing, so I let Tutor Su deliver the speech. Bottom line, Youzhou has a new boss. The prince's word is the law here now. If any official cheats you on the land deal, go directly to the prince's residence and file a complaint. Then we visited the county seat that governed this area, Tangshui County. And oh ho ho, the county magistrate was living like an emperor. A 5-courtyard mansion, 1,000 acres of prime farmland, 11 concubines, in a region where children are literally being sold for 3 taels because families can't afford food. Zhao Bao spent 2 taels on gossip and got the full picture in about 10 minutes. The magistrate loved money and women and had essentially turned himself into Tongshui's #1 landlord bully. I was livid. Hands on hips. Full power stance. Maximum rage. How dare he? I'm supposed to be the #1 power in Youzhou. I'm the local tyrant. Me. What gives him the right? Tutor Su. Is local tyrant really the title you're going for, Your Highness? But then, beautiful moment of clarity. I realized this corrupt magistrate's mansion was nicer than my palace. He had more luxury than me, the actual prince. My eyes narrowed. My brain activated. I immediately wrote a letter to Prime Minister Shui. Arrest the magistrate. Gather evidence. Shouldn't take long. It's all in plain sight. Execute him and confiscate everything. Every coin, every acre, every silk curtain. I may be 7, but I just discovered the ancient art of funding your government by eating the corrupt. Diary time. May 17th. Qishui Village, Tangshui County. Mountains and rocks everywhere. The locals are wild. They almost kidnapped me. After Tutor patiently lectured them, they promised to go straight. They were all so skinny, I couldn't bear to punish them harshly. They're my people, after all. My name is Bailey. This whole realm bears my family's responsibility. The hills here do have one advantage. Climb up, and you can see the ocean. Quite good feng shui, actually. Perhaps I should choose this spot for my royal tomb. At the rate Youzhou is going, the day I'll need that tomb isn't far off. 2 days heading north through the mountains, and bandits jumped us at a pass. 30 or 40 of them, armed with sticks and farming sickles, charging down the hillside like discount warriors. Bad news. They wanted little date. Again, my horse is basically a bandit magnet. Good news. The Empire tightly controls iron weapons, so these guys had the combat equipment of an angry farm. Sticks, sickles. One guy might have had a hoe. My guards are the best of my 3,000 soldiers. And even though those 3,000 were basically couch potatoes in Chang'an, the top dozen were still trained military men with real swords. The bandits took one look at 12 identical military blades being drawn in unison and collectively thought, "We have made a mistake." A few went down. The rest turned and scrambled up the mountain like startled goats. Zhang Tong didn't bother chasing them. Just tied up the captured ones, sent someone to report to the nearest officials, and we kept moving. I was not satisfied. "We're just leaving? We ran into bandits, and we don't wipe them out?" Tutor Su, head wrapped in bandages from earlier excitement, calmly replied, "What if there are 200 more up in that mountain camp? Okay. Fair point. Shutting up now." But I didn't have long to sulk, because from that point forward, it was like someone opened the floodgates of crime. Bandits everywhere. Every mountain pass, every canyon, every stretch of road. More bandits. Different groups, different sizes, all equally desperate and poorly armed. And suddenly I understood why Youzhou is so impossibly poor. Half the young men got drafted into the army and died. The other half ran away to avoid being drafted and became bandits instead. The entire male workforce of my territory is either dead, enlisted, or robbing people on mountain roads. Great. Wonderful economic foundation. Most of them were small-time, 5 guys with sticks jumping out of a bush, realizing we had swords, and running away. Annoying, not dangerous. But the volume was exhausting. Zhang Tong aged visibly on this trip. Then we hit Yingke Mountain, and things got serious. A large group surrounded our carriage. The horses pulling us panicked and bolted, straight toward a cliff edge. We were seconds from launching off the mountain like the world's worst flying machine. Me, Tutor Su, the carriage, everything. About to become a geology experiment. Little Date saved us. My beautiful, brilliant, incredible horse somehow planted her hooves, pulled against the carriage, and dragged us backward from the edge. If not for her, Tutor and I would have had our reunion with my mother much sooner than planned. Zhao Bao and Zhang Tong fought off the attackers below, hearts in their throats, then sprinted to the carriage expecting the worst. They found Tutor Su covered in blood from smashing his head during the chaos, looking like a horror painting. And me? Not a scratch. I sat there completely unharmed while an old man next to me looked like he'd fought a bear with his face. Tutor had blood streaming down his forehead, his nice beard was a mess, and he was breathing like he'd run a marathon. Me? Clean. Perfect. Not even a bruise. This is the moment I fell in love with the city lord's heart. Sure, it bound my life to a crumbling border city. Sure, the pain still registers. But look at Tutor's head. If that had been me, a fragile 7-year-old, I'd be dead. Not from City Falls, you die dead. Just regular, boring. Child's skull hits wooden beam at high speed, dead. I am literally invincible. The pain from the impact? Barely a tickle compared to the joy bubbling inside me. I was practically fizzing with happiness while everyone else was traumatized. After the fight, even the eternally calm Tutor Su turned grim. Everyone finally grasped how catastrophically bad the bandit situation was. This wasn't occasional nuisance. This was the entire northern half of my territory is lawless wilderness. As for me, I handled the situation with maximum leadership. I stared at Zhang Tong. Just stared, silently, for a very long time, until the man was so uncomfortable he couldn't even ride his horse properly. He eventually dismounted and dropped to his knees. I swear I'll reorganize the troops. I'll come back and eliminate every bandit. Please, Your Highness, be at ease. I sighed the sigh of a man 30 years older than me. Our soldiers were raised in peaceful Chang'an. Can they actually beat bandits who fight like they've got nothing to lose? Do you even know how many people are in the Yingke Mountain stronghold? Do you know the terrain? What if it's a fortress? If our guards attack and lose, we don't just lose soldiers. We lose my face and my father's face. Did you think about that? Was I using this speech to scare Zhang Tong into training harder? Yes. Was I also genuinely terrified about my survival? Also yes. Both things can be true. Zhang Tong's face was dripping sweat. He hadn't considered the political angle. If a prince's personal guard gets destroyed by mountain bandits, the emperor looks incompetent. Dad would be furious. And furious emperors tend to execute people. I'm ashamed. I'll train the troops properly. Bandit suppression needs careful planning first. Sigh. My life is so hard. I looked up and noticed Tutor Sue, head wrapped in bloody bandages, face barely recognizable under all the cloth, was smiling. Tutor, how can you smile right now? He stroked what was left of his visible beard. That's it. Just Apparently he was impressed that a 7-year-old could think about military logistics and political consequences while everyone else was panicking. Teacher's pride overriding physical agony. Tutor, you got your head split open and you're smiling because I asked smart questions. You are a much bigger person than me. I bow to your commitment to education. Diary time, May 19th, Yankei Mountain. I almost died here. Little date saved my life. I've decided she'll be buried with me in my royal tomb. She's earned it. Speaking of the tomb, I found a beautiful blood-red stone by the river today. Very pretty. Adding it to the burial goods collection. Item count 1. Back to the bandits. When I return to Youzhou, I will build up my army and destroy them all. Otherwise, I'll just have to haunt Big Brother and ruin his meals forever. We hit the northern border, turned west, and basically speed ran the most desolate stretch of my territory. There was nothing to stop for. Just emptiness. Grass. Wind. More emptiness. If depression were a landscape, this was it. My team wanted to take a shortcut back to Youzhou City, but I insisted on following my specific route because, not that I could tell them, I needed to scan every corner for my map quest. No, I want to see all of my territory. Every inch. A good king knows his land. Very noble-sounding excuse for a video game objective. We got close enough to see Shangugwan Pass in the distance. The fortress where the actual imperial army is stationed. The guys who are supposed to protect us. Cool. Noted the location. Agreed to turn south. Map progress. 90%. Last stop. Pinkong County, which is supposedly Youzhou's main breadbasket. Flattest land. Most farmland. Biggest tax contributor. I was expecting something almost nice. And at first, it delivered. Actual farms. People working in fields. Crops growing. Green things. I nearly wept from joy. Signs of a functioning economy. I spotted a kid digging up wild vegetables by the road and bounced over with 2 pieces of candy for bribery purposes. Hey, little brother. We're just passing through. What's this place called? The kid stood up and was taller than me. He was just so skinny that when he was squatting he looked tiny. He's actually 10. 3 years older than me. But so malnourished he's barely my height and half my width. I swallowed my embarrassment and switched to intelligence gathering mode. Within minutes I had this kid, Samling, spilling everything. His entire family, all 6 adults, were out clearing new land under my farming policy. That was actually great to hear. People here were responding. But then the details came out. 6 working adults supporting 3 children, and they only eat 2 meals a day. They haven't seen meat in basically ever. Samling was out here foraging wild greens for dinner because that's all their is. His grandpa eventually spotted us from the field and came running over, terrified his naive grandson was being lured away by strangers. Which, honestly, from his perspective, a chubby, well-dressed kid with a suspicious entourage chatting up his grandchild? I'd be suspicious too. After they left, I stood there staring at their retreating backs for a long time. Zhao Bao found me frozen in place, face dark with worry. Your Highness? They're gone. What are you looking at? I'm looking at my future. Samling is me in 3 years. If Youzhou stays this poor, by the time I'm 10 I'll be skinnier than him. That's impossible. The entire territory would feed you before. His family has 6 farmers for 3 kids, and they eat twice a day with no meat. I have 3,000 soldiers to feed on top of myself. Starving to death here is not a fantasy. That night, our last on the road, I had the strangest dreams. When I woke up, I was mumbling about things I didn't understand. Agricultural civilization, nomadic civilization, natural enemies, inevitable conflict. Industrial civilization is the way to go, Zhao Bao. Your Highness? I snapped awake. Wait, what did I just say? What's industrial civilization? We stared at each other blankly for several seconds. I slapped my forehead. I forgot. What was I saying before? Zhao Bao had only caught fragments. Something about nomads and something being unstoppable. He figured I'd had a nightmare about the barbarian tribes and that the memory faded upon waking, which is normal for dreams. Sure, let's go with that. The alternative is that my brain is broken and I'm 7. I'm too young for brain problems. As we got closer to Youzhou City, I forgot all about it. My shabby, empty, barely furnished royal residence was waiting for me, and you know what? I was excited. That sad excuse for a palace is home now. I missed it. I missed my bed. I missed eating indoors at a table. I climbed onto Little Date for the final stretch, trotting happily alongside the carriage. My riding had gotten genuinely good. Strong grip, good balance, real confidence. The only rule I hated was, stay with the group, because when Little Date actually runs, nothing in our convoy can keep up. I tried sprinting once near the border and came back to find Zhang Tong, Zhao Bao, and Tutor Su all kneeling in protest. 3 grown men. On their knees. Because I went fast on a horse. Humph. But then, mid-ride, a crystal-clear bell sound rang inside my head. I flipped my wrist open and my game panel was exploding with confetti and sparkles. Party Popper, congratulations. Beginner quest complete. Party Popper instantly lost all interest in riding. Actually, I'm tired. Back to the carriage. Need rest. Zhao Bao was baffled. 5 minutes ago, I was begging to ride. Now I'm begging to stop? This child makes no sense. I dove into the carriage, kicked Zhao Bao out, closed the curtains, and opened my rewards. Reward 1. Youzhou full territory 3D terrain map. A tiny landscape floated in front of me. Mountains, rivers, coastline. It looked like my paper map of Youzhou, but standing up, 3-dimensional, with actual terrain features. I poked it. It moved. I could zoom in, and zoom out, and rotate. I zoomed into Youzhou City. I could see the streets. I zoomed more. I could see people, walking around, living their lives. Tiny little figures moving through tiny little streets. My eyes and mouth opened to maximum diameter simultaneously. One hand was zooming. The other was clamped over my mouth to keep from screaming. This was real. This was actually real. I zoomed into the royal residence. Found the stables. There was the little eunuch who takes care of the horses, carrying hay back and forth. I could watch him. In real time. From inside a moving carriage miles away. The city lord's heart description said, monitor everything in your territory, and I'd thought it meant, I don't know, getting reports? Having informants? No. It meant I have a satellite view of my entire domain. I zoomed to maximum. The eunuch became about the size of my fingernail. That was the limit. He looked like a big ant walking through a dollhouse version of my palace. When he walked into the stable building, he disappeared. When he came back out, pop, visible again. I couldn't see through roofs. Noted. I reached out with my pinky and gently tried to push his tiny back. Nothing happened. Can't interact with the real world through the map. Okay, fair, but I couldn't help it. The absurdity, the joy, the sheer impossibility of what I was looking at. I burst out laughing. Ah, slaps hands over mouth too late. Zhao Bao, riding alongside. Your Highness? Nothing. Fell asleep. Dreamed about eating meat. Zhao Bao, completely serious. That will roast a whole lamb tonight. The man thinks I'm hallucinating from protein deficiency. Let him. Tonight I eat lamb, and I have a magical spy satellite. Best day ever. I dove straight into exploring my new toy. Poked the City Overview section under the main quest tab, and a whole stats page popped up. City name. Great Jean Youzhou location. Northern Hemisphere. West of the Bohai Sea area. 59,200 square. Something meters? Big number. Sounds impressive. Households. 128,000 Citizen Happiness Index. 3 out of 100. Red warning. Citizen Hunger Index. 92 out of 100, where 0 means nobody's hungry. Red warning. Infrastructure Index. 2. And then the game had the audacity to add a note. Dear Lord, the structures in your territory cannot technically be classified as infrastructure. Excuse me? Our buildings are being roasted by a magical floating game board. I know our houses are bad, but I didn't need a video game telling me that. So 92% of my people are hungry. That tracks with everything I've seen. And a happiness score of 3? Honestly higher than I expected. You're supposed to be my treasure. Help me out here. Give me food. Or money. Even just food. Please. No response. The game never responds to begging. Then I found the main quest. Dear Lord, your citizens are living at critical danger levels. Out of 10,682 city lords across all dimensions, your city is the only one with a hunger index of 92%. Data analysis shows that 50% hunger is enough to trigger revolution. You cannot keep lying around doing nothing. Quest 1. Raise happiness by 3 points. Quest 2. Lower hunger by 3 points. Rewards. Game Manager unlocked. Universal Homeland Access. 2x A-rank lottery spins. Accept quest? Yes, accepting grants SSS rank companion pet X1. The game is threatening me. It's saying my people are so miserable that statistically they should have overthrown me already, and I'm literally the worst city lord out of 10,000. Then at the end it dangles a treat in case the terror wasn't motivating enough. Listen, dream. I don't scare easily, okay? If you're so worried, just give me grain. Also, what's a companion pet? And what are those squiggly symbols? Are those even words? Some of the text had characters I'd never seen in my life. Remember, I learned the 1,000-character classic and nothing else for 3 years. Silence, obviously. The game never chats back. I hit yes. A bubble popped up. Quest accepted. Reward. SSS rank companion pet. Bays, auspicious beast of the Eastern Sea. Sent to your warehouse. I had no idea what an SSS rank meant. I didn't know what a bays was. I'd never read any mythology books because I'd barely graduated from the alphabet. What I didn't know was that when I opened my warehouse, there was a new icon, a white fluffy thing. Looked like a cat to me. I hit summon. A puff of white fur materialized on my carriage floor. A tiny creature, palm-sized, clearly a baby, blinking awake with huge round purple eyes and the most adorable confused face. Like it had just been napping in another dimension and was not expecting this commute. And it had 2 little red eyebrows, tiny crimson tufts above its eyes. Fierce and cute simultaneously. I scooped it up instantly. Oh my goodness, you're adorable. You have purple eyes. I've never seen a cat with red eyebrows. You're so majestic and fluffy, cat. I called an SSS rank divine beast, the rarest creature in the entire game. Something the system practically bankrupted itself to give me because I'm so pathetically behind every other player. A cat. A cat. Dream. You didn't need to bribe me with a kitten. I would have accepted the quest anyway. But since you did give me a present, I'm extra happy, haha. Back in the palace, my bratty 4th brother, who had this gorgeous blue-eyed hunting dog from the western regions. Beautiful puppy. I loved it. He never let me touch it. Not once. Every time I reached for it, he'd snatch it away like I had diseases. Well, look who has a pet now, HU. And mine has purple eyes and red eyebrows. Does your dog have rainbow features? I think not. Zhao Bao heard mumbling from inside the carriage and came to check. I panicked and shoved my divine beast back into the warehouse. Poof. Gone. And casually announced, I'm bored again. Want a ride? Zhao Bao's internal monologue. Probably. This child changes activities faster than weather. Zhang Tong lifted me onto Little Date again. I rode nicely behind the guards for about 2 minutes while my brain worked on Phase 2 of Operation Pet Reveal. The plan. I needed to publicly discover my new pet outside the carriage, in a natural setting, so I could claim I found it in the wild. We're in the countryside. Animals live in countryside. Perfect cover story. I casually drifted Little Date to the edge of the formation. Zhang Tong noticed, but decided I was just being a diva horse rider who didn't want to stare at guard butts. Fair enough. Relatable. 3 seconds of peace. Then I snapped the reins. Little Date exploded forward. 0 to full gallop in an instant. She was born for this. We shot ahead like an arrow, wind in my face, freedom in my heart, guards screaming behind me. Your Highness is deaf. Your Highness is busy. Zhao Bao and Zhang Tong chased with the desperation of men whose careers were actively ending. Little Date is faster than every horse in the convoy combined. They couldn't even get close. They just screamed into the wind, begging me to stop, offering their worthless dog lives if I'd please just slow down. Tutor Su peeked out of his carriage in the back, sighed, and let the curtain fall. That boy has energy. Once I'd put enough distance between us, I pulled Little Date to a stop, and then rolled off the horse. Not dismounted. Rolled. Fell sideways into the grass like a sack of rice. Zhao Bao nearly had a stroke watching from afar. But I knew I wouldn't get hurt. City Lord's heart, baby. Just a bit of pain, no damage. and my legs are too short for a graceful dismount anyway. By the time Zhang Tong caught up, panting, sweating, probably writing his resignation letter in his head, he found me sitting in the grass, perfectly intact, cradling a tiny white creature in my hands with the biggest smile in all of Youzhou. Commander Zhang, look what I found. Zhang Tong's thoughts, written plainly on his face. My life. That's what you found. In your hands. Crushed. And that's how I introduced the world's rarest mythical beast to my household. As a random kitten I found in a field after falling off my horse. Nobody questioned it. Nobody ever questions the weird things that happen around me. I'm starting to think that's a problem. They stuffed me back in the carriage, but I didn't care because I had a tiny divine beast in my hands and life was beautiful. I just sat there grinning like an idiot, petting my little bays, who I still thought was a fancy cat, feeling like the richest king in the world. This little guy is mine. I can pet him whenever I want. No asking permission, no one snatching him away, no dirty looks. Just pure unlimited fluffy access. Do you know how life-changing that is for a kid who couldn't even touch his brother's dog? While cuddling, I peeked at my game panel and realized there was more below the main quest. A side quest I'd missed. Side quest. Build the prince's residence. Official supplies provided. All raw materials. All tools. 1 on-site technical supervisor, temporary. 5,000 skilled workers, temporary. Additional requirement. Recruit 5,000 local Youzhou workers. Estimated construction time, 90 days. Included benefits. 5,000 sets of work uniforms. Meals for 5,000 workers x 90 days. Wages for 5,000 workers x 90 days. I read it 3 times. Then read it again. The game is going to build me a palace? For free? With materials, workers, tools, a supervisor. And it's going to pay and feed 5,000 of my own citizens to help? I had been ignoring the palace reward this whole time because I assumed it would just appear like Little Date did. Poof. Giant palace. Everyone screams, accusations of witchcraft. But no, the game actually thought about logistics. The logic chain supplement means it'll be constructed normally, brick by brick, by real workers, over 3 months. Nobody gets suspicious. Nobody calls an exorcist. And the jobs. 5,000 households getting paid work, free meals, and uniforms for 3 months. In a territory where 92% of people are hungry. This isn't just a palace. It's an economic stimulus package. The uniforms, the meals, the wages. Even in wealthy Chang'an, this would be a premium employer. My magical game board has better labor policies than the imperial government. I smashed accept so fast my finger hurt. The 3D map floated up with a prompt. Choose a location for the prince's residence. I zoomed into Youzhou City, found my current sad palace. Easy to spot. Because the walls are the biggest visible landmark in the area, and tapped it. Right here, a ghostly green outline of the new palace materialized over the old one. And it was enormous. Way bigger than the current walls. The new palace spilled out past the boundaries on every side. Then a warning popped up. Existing structures detected at this location. Override all. Overwritten buildings will be demolished. Yes/no. I slammed an O so hard I nearly cracked the screen. It said, buildings. It didn't say people. There are people in there. My staff. My guards. 3,000 soldiers in the barracks behind. I am not squishing everyone to get a nice house. Also, honestly, Governor Zhang worked really hard on what he could afford. Overriding it felt wasteful. I'll find a different spot. No rush. Need to plan this properly. While I was busy playing God with my city planner, the carriage rolled into Youzhou. Prime Minister Shui and the whole mini-government were lined up at the gate to welcome me home. Once everyone dispersed, I tried to sneak away and keep exploring my game, but Shui and Tutor Su were still standing there. Ominously. Is there something else? There was something else. In perfect unison, like they'd rehearsed. Your Highness needs to start studying. My wail of despair echoed through the empty palace grounds. They'd already decided everything. No input needed from the actual student. Morning, books and academics. Afternoon, martial arts training. Most princes don't need combat training. But Youzhou's prince? Youzhou's prince might end up on an actual battlefield someday. Even if I never fight, I need basic self-defense skills. The reasoning was sound. I hated that the reasoning was sound. I aggressively pet my bays to express my displeasure. The little guy just blinked his purple eyes at me, unbothered. At least someone in this palace isn't trying to make me study. Before leaving, Shui handed me 2 letters. One from Big Brother the Prince of Yu. One from Fourth Brother Hu. I was stunned. Since when do my brothers write to me? We weren't even on speaking terms. Who used to grunt at me in hallways? What happened? Did they miss me? Did the absence make their hearts grow fonder? I opened Hu's letter first, burning with curiosity. One line of, "Hope you're doing well, brother." Then 3 pages of laughing at me. That little rat read my letter to Dad. My carefully crafted begging for sympathy letter. The one where I thanked Dad for feeding me and promised to stretch my money. Someone in the palace sorting office flagged it as notable correspondence and showed it to the Emperor, who apparently found it hilarious. Dad was so pleased by my flattery that he went around bragging to the Empress and his favorite consort about his loyal, filial son who misses his father from 1,000 miles away. Then he lectured Hu. See, when you leave the palace someday, you'll appreciate what you have. Look at your brother the Prince of Yu, all alone and grateful, who heard this and nearly died laughing. His proud, snippy third brother was out there writing love letters to Dad because he couldn't afford dinner. So naturally he had to write and check on me, which was actually just an excuse to mock me for being broke. I'm going to remember this. Hu. Big Brother's letter was the same energy, but worse. His mom told him about my situation, and he responded by writing a detailed description of how amazing Youzhou is, how rich the territory is, how magnificent his palace turned out, how the city lights sparkle at night. Every sentence was basically, "My life is great. How's yours?" "Oh right, you're eating beans." I read every word while literally drooling. Youzhou sounds like paradise. I was so jealous I could feel my blood pressure rising. Zhao Bao found me clutching both letters, face red, fists clenched, making a solemn vow to the ceiling. One day, I will make Youzhou richer than Youzhou. And then I'll write Big Brother a letter every single month describing how amazing my territory is. Every month, Zhao Bao, loyal to the end. May your highness's grand ambition be realized soon. Translation: Sure, buddy. Let's get you fed first. And just like that, my vacation was over. Morning, books with Tutor Su. Afternoon, martial arts and horse riding with Zhao Chuan. Evening, secretly zooming around my 3D spine map, counting bandit heads on every mountain in Youzhou. I literally went peak by peak on Yanke Mountain going, 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's a lot of guys. Even petting my little bays had to be squeezed into gaps in my schedule. When I was too busy, I'd park him with Zhao Bao for babysitting. And this creature? Picky eater. Only fresh vegetables, fruit, and fresh fish. Won't touch pork, lamb, or grain. Zhao Bao said he takes after his owner, born with a rich kid's stomach. If anyone other than your highness had found this animal, it would have starved to death in Youzhou within a week. Rude, but accurate. Now, the palace-building quest was haunting me. I had a free palace sitting in my inventory, plus jobs and food for 5,000 families, and I couldn't use any of it because I couldn't figure out how to announce, "Hey everyone, I'm demolishing my current palace and building a bigger one," when my people can barely eat. Also, there's literally no empty space inside Youzhou City big enough for the new palace without relocating people. Every option was either embarrassing, logistically impossible, or both. All my quests, frozen, stalled, dead in the water. I sighed so much that Zhao Bao thought I was having another school hatred relapse. Then one evening I sat down and actually looked at my finances. I should not have looked at my finances. Zhao Bao, why is the money disappearing so fast? Is there an error in the books, Your Highness? That's the problem. There's no error. Every coin is accounted for. 3,000 soldiers and 500 horses just eat money. I had plans to rotate out weak soldiers and recruit better ones, but after seeing that ledger, I was too scared to touch anything. Days of intense brooding later, I had an idea. I told Zhao Bao to buy me a big estate outside the city. The excuse was ready-made. I needed somewhere to put people. The 6 kids I bought at Dragon Head County were too young for palace work. The soldiers I wanted to cut were going to need jobs. A farm estate solves both problems. Zhao Bao, the man is efficient, came back in 2 days with property deeds. 3 adjacent farms, merged into one massive estate near Fujia village. Over 1,000 acres. In Chang'an, I couldn't afford a garden this size. In Youzhou, dirt cheap. Literally. Because it's mostly dirt. Score 1 for poverty. At least the real estate is affordable. Next, Operation Army Makeover. I announced a monthly combat tournament. Bottom-ranked squad gets cut. Eliminated soldiers get shipped to the farm estate to grow food. Don't like farming? Train harder and earn your way back in. This was brilliant, if I do say so myself. The soldiers had it cushy as royal guards. Military registration, steady pay, better benefits than regular troops. Getting demoted to farmer? Social death. The entire camp went from lazy garrison duty to train like your career depends on it overnight. I strolled through the barracks to inspect morale. Every single soldier was exercising, sparring, or at least pretending to try. I walked back to the palace with the biggest smirk on my face. First monthly tournament. 300 soldiers eliminated. Shipped straight to the farm. No exceptions. Zhao Bao watched me casually send away 300 men and didn't even blink. He's seen worse from me. At the next court meeting, I formally requested permission to recruit 300 fresh local men to replace them. Since I'm paying from my own budget, nobody objected. Commander Zhang got the order and went recruiting. Then Prime Minister Xue suggested rotating 500 of my guards to help patrol the city gates every 10 days. Because, let's be honest, the current city guards are so old they'd lose a fight with a stiff breeze. I agreed instantly. Can't replace them yet? Fine, I'll supplement them with my own people. Everything was clicking into place. Military reform, happening. Government operations, functional. Financial bleeding, slowed. Meanwhile, I kept opening my game warehouse to stare at the palace construction rewards like a kid pressing his face against a candy shop window. All those materials, those worker wages, those meals, sitting right there, locked behind a choose a location prompt I couldn't complete yet. But I did the math on the worker benefits, and they were staggering. Each worker gets fed 2 sheng of grain per day, plenty. Wages of 300 coins per day, which over 90 days comes to 27 taels per person. That's elite-level pay for this era. 5,000 workers times 27 taels means 5,000 families would essentially leap out of poverty the moment construction starts. I drafted a recruitment plan in my little notebook and tweaked it every single night. Rule 1. Positions distributed equally across all surrounding villages. Fair is fair. Rule 2. 1 person per household only. Spread the wealth. Rule 3. Families with active military members get priority. Serving in the army should mean something. Rule 4. Poorest families get priority. Obviously. Rule 5. Villages form guarantee groups. If one worker causes trouble, the entire village loses their spots. That should keep even the wildest Youzhou folks in line. Every time I looked at my little notebook, I couldn't stop smiling. This is going to change everything. And the best part? Outside my walls, things were already changing. North of Youzhou City, the wasteland I designated for free farming was getting busy. Spring planting was done, farmers had free time, and the brave ones were finally showing up. A temporary government office was set up right there to register families and assign plots. Old man Yu from Yu family village brought his 4 sons and 3 grown grandsons. His thinking was simple. Even if they never give us the deed, at least the wheat we grow feeds our family for free. He had 6 adult mouths to feed. Sitting around wasn't an option. Neighbors were chatting as they worked, encouraging each other. Which village are you from? Yu family village. Yu, Mountain Mouth village. Hey, you think this is legit? Worst case, we waste some muscle. My family's got plenty of kids to share the work. Not everyone came. The cynics, the lazy ones, the deeply suspicious, they stayed home. But the people who showed up, they were working, digging, clearing, planting. The wasteland was actually turning into farmland. Real crops in real soil, planted by real families who decided that trying was better than starving. For once, something in Youzhou looked like hope. And their chubby little king? He was sitting in his shabby palace, studying books he didn't want to read, training muscles he didn't have yet, petting a mythical beast he thought was a cat, and dreaming about the day he'd make this frozen corner of nowhere into something worth writing home about. Specifically, worth writing to Big Brother about. Monthly. In excruciating detail. Just you wait, Yang. Just you wait. The farming policy was finally working. I rode out to the northern fields with Zhao Chuan that afternoon after getting out of class early, and what I saw made my heart sing. Families everywhere, digging, clearing, chatting, sharing water, planning where to build shade shelters together. Old Man Yu's crew was taking a break with the Wang family from Mountain Mouth Village, talking about what crops to plant before frost. If we hurry, we can get late millet in before the cold. My dad says if nothing else works, just plant cabbage. It'll grow even if it grows ugly. People with hope. For the first time since I arrived in Youzhou, my citizens looked like they believed tomorrow might be better than today. I sat on little date, smiling so wide my cheeks hurt. Then Zhao Chuan's face changed. On the northern horizon, a line of riders. Coming fast. Big horses, curved swords, dozens of them. Braided hair whipping in the wind. Northern tribesmen, heading straight for us. Your Highness, run. The farmers saw them too. Screaming erupted across the fields. Barbarians. Barbarians are coming. Run. Run. Help. They're catching people. I watched. I couldn't look away as the riders pulled out ropes. Lasso ropes. And they started catching my people like animals. Throwing loops around running farmers. Yanking them off their feet. Dragging them behind galloping horses. When family members rushed to help, they got lassoed too. When old people got in the way, a flash of steel and they dropped. One swing of a blade. A spray of red against the blue sky. They were laughing. Laughing. Killing people and laughing about it. Zhao Chuan. Fight them. Zhao Chuan grabbed for Little Date's reins, trying to drag me toward the city. Your Highness, you have to go. It's too dangerous. You can't fight. He was right, and I knew he was right, and I hated that he was right. If I got captured, it wouldn't just be my life. It would be a political disaster that would get even more people killed. I was 7 years old, and I didn't know how to hold a sword. I'd be nothing but a liability. But knowing that didn't make it hurt less. Zhao Chuan kept 2 guards for me and stayed behind with the rest to fight. As I turned Little Date toward the city, I saw a boy, maybe 10, 11 years old, trampled under a horse's hooves. His head hit the ground and never came back up. He was somebody's son. He was out there because of my farming policy. Because I told people it was safe to work these fields. I rode through tears, barely seeing the road. Little Date ran full speed toward the city gates, crashing through streets, hooves thundering on stone. Behind me, all I could hear was screaming and that horrible, horrible laughter. People in the city streets stared at a small child on a magnificent horse, sobbing uncontrollably, tearing through town like the world was ending. Because for 27 of my people it was. I went straight to the military barracks, told Zhang Tong to deploy the cavalry. Now, then I dragged Little Date to the front hall and sat on my throne. And I just stopped. I didn't move. I didn't talk. I stared at the door and chewed my fingernails down to nothing. Zhao Bao came running, checked me for injuries, circled me like a worried hen, tried to get me to talk. I had nothing to say. He figured I was in shock. The kid's too young for this. Just let him be quiet. Officials arrived one by one. Prime Minister Shui, Tutor Su, every bureaucrat in the palace. I sat there gnawing my hand, silent, while they all waited. Then Zhao Chuan walked in, covered in blood. Not all of it his. I finally looked up. Report. The raiders have been driven off. Commander Zhang arrived with reinforcements. Wounded are being brought back to the city for treatment. Casualties. 27 civilians dead. 31 wounded. 2 of our soldiers killed. 3 wounded. 4 raiders killed. The rest escaped. The silence that followed could have crushed stone. 4. We killed 4. And they escaped. They rode into my territory, murdered 27 people, captured who knows how many more, and rode away with a 90% survival rate. They weren't even real soldiers, were they? My voice came out like sandpaper. Just a small gang of raiders. A handful of thugs crossed the border on a whim and casually took 30 lives. 30. Like it was nothing. Every official in the room dropped to their knees. I turned to Wang, the local-born official. Has this happened before? Why did nobody tell me? He couldn't meet my eyes. Occasionally, Your Highness. During harvest, or when they need slaves. They circle around the mountains and raid the southern villages. It's small scale. They never enter the city. Since Your Highness had just arrived, nobody thought to mention. I launched off the throne so fast the chair rattled. Small? The border army just lets them through? Do you know how those people died? I'm going to kill every last one of them. More kneeling. More apologies. None of it bringing anyone back. The truth is brutal and simple. The imperial garrison at Shangguan monitors for armies. Large-scale invasions. A few dozen raiders slipping through mountain passes? Not their department. Not their problem. Just regular border life. Cost of doing business. Give the 2 fallen soldiers full burial honors. 50 taels each to their families. Zhao Chuan knelt and thanked me on their behalf. I could barely see him through the haze. Back in my room, I pulled the blanket over my head and cried until I couldn't breathe. I'm 7 years old. I've seen poverty and hunger and bandits. But this was different. These people were in those fields because of me. Because I told them to farm. Because I promised them a future. One minute they're smiling, talking about cabbage and millet and feeding their families. The next minute a sword takes their life mid-sentence. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it. The flash of the blade in sunlight. The red arc against the sky. The boy who fell under the horse and didn't get up. Zhao Bao stood by my bed, silent. He wanted to comfort me, but couldn't find words. He'd already heard the full story from Zhao Chuan. What do you say to a child who just watched his people get slaughtered? He just stood there, quietly cursing the emperor in his heart. What kind of father sends a 7-year-old to a place like this? My diary that night was 3 lines. July 1st, Youzhou City. Blood. Screaming. It's raining in my world. I didn't sleep. Not 1 minute. The next morning after class, I rode out to the northern fields with Zhao Chuan. He brought extra guards this time. 2 fewer faces than yesterday, though. 2 who'd never come back. I stood in the same spot where 24 hours ago, families had been laughing and digging and dreaming about harvests. Empty. Not a single person. The whole field was deserted. The sounds of chatting neighbors and clinking tools, gone. Like yesterday was just a dream I invented. But the smell of blood was still in the air, faint, riding the wind. That part wasn't a dream. Nobody would come back outside the walls. Why would they? They came out here because I told them it was worth it. And the reward was death. I suddenly kicked Little Date into a gallop and shot across the plains. I felt the tears coming again, and I refused to let anyone see me cry for the 2nd day in a row. A king who cries every day isn't a king. He's a mascot. Little Date ran and ran until I'd left every guard behind. I cried alone in the wind, privately, like a person and not a title. When Little Date finally stopped, I was almost at the northern border. I sat on my horse and stared across the boundary into enemy territory. Somewhere out there, Liaodong Xianbei to the northeast, Liaoshi Xianbei, and Xiongnu to the northwest, were the people who murdered 27 of my citizens yesterday. I didn't know exactly which tribe. Didn't matter. They're all northern barbarians, and they're all my enemies now. My eyes were swollen and red from crying and wind. I looked like a rabbit that had been through a war. But I raised my riding whip, pointed it north like a tiny general, and made a vow. I will destroy every single barbarian who dares cross this border. Only Little Date heard it. She snorted. Good enough witness. Zhao Chuan arrived minutes later, practically having a heart attack. Your Highness, after what happened yesterday, you ride off alone. Can those barbarians outrun Little Date? No. Then I'm safer than you are. Stop nagging. You're worse than Tutor. Now come look at this land. It's flat, right? Nice and flat. He looked around. Yeah, flat grassland. But way too close to the border for farming or building or any sane activity. I shook my head. Raised the whip north again. Youzhou lives in fear. My people can't even farm without being slaughtered. So from now on, I'm going to stand between them and the border. I'm building my new palace right here. That I'm sorry, what? Here's what happened inside my head during that sleepless night. I cried. A lot. Then I stopped crying and opened my game panel and studied every corner of it until dawn. I have a magical city building system. I have invincible skin. I have a spy satellite map. I have a free palace with 5,000 paid workers waiting to be deployed. Yesterday, I was too embarrassed to announce a construction project because my people are poor. Today, 27 people are dead because the border has no defense. My palace comes with 3 months of employment for 5,000 families. It comes with meals, wages, uniforms. It is the economic stimulus my territory desperately needs. And if I build it at the northern border instead of inside the city, it becomes a fortress, a statement, a shield. The Prince of You lives at the front line. Want to raid Youzhou? Come through me first. I'm 7. I might be insane, but I'm doing it. When I announced this at court, the place erupted. Your Highness, this is reckless. We can't protect you out there. Even the emperor wouldn't expand a capital this aggressively. I didn't ask for opinions. I informed them. This wasn't a discussion. This was a royal decree from a child who spent all night crying and came out the other side with a plan and zero patience for debate. Prime Minister Shui was the only one who stayed quiet. He looked at me for a long time, sighed, and I could see him thinking, this kid has the makings of a great ruler. Shame he's 7 and completely unhinged. Then he tried the practical approach. Your Highness, where is the money coming from? Everyone perked up. Right. Building a palace costs a fortune. We can't afford the one we have. I waved my hand with maximum swagger. I have a plan. Tomorrow we post the recruitment notice. That's all you need to know. Dismissed. Back in my study, I kicked Zhao Bao out, pulled out my notebook, and began copying the recruitment announcement I'd been secretly drafting and revising for weeks. Every detail already planned. Every rule already written. When Shui read it the next morning, he had to close his eyes and reopen them to make sure he wasn't hallucinating. Your Highness, did you write this yourself? Are you serious? I lifted my chin and nodded. Inside, I was doing my power stance plus maniacal laughter combo. Yes, it's real. Yes, I'm generous. The people of Youzhou are about to get the deal of a lifetime because their king has a cheat code. Shui couldn't stop me. He was deeply suspicious, probably thought Grandpa had secretly funneled military funds to me. Zhao Bao saw the budget numbers and nearly fell down the stairs. The math didn't work with any money source they knew about. Because it wasn't any money source they knew about. It was a magical floating rectangle. But nobody needed to know that. The notices went out by fast horse that afternoon. Written in plain, simple language so every villager could understand. Official recruitment notice yesterday. Unknown northern raiders crossed the border and murdered over 30 Youzhou citizens. The Prince of Yu personally encountered them while on patrol and drove them away. The prince has decided to relocate his residence to the northern border to personally guard Youzhou's people. 5,000 able-bodied men are hereby recruited to construct the new prince's residence north of Youzhou City. Duration, 90 days. Requirements, ages 14 to 45. Healthy, 1 person per household only. Priority given to families with active military members, then to the poorest families. Compensation, 1 set of work clothes, immediate. 2 sheng of rice per day daily. 300 coins per day, monthly. Villages organize into groups of 40, with collective responsibility. Anyone caught stealing or breaking rules gets their entire group expelled. Registration, July 4th. Location, west gate of the prince's residence. 300 coins a day. Free rice. Free clothes. In a territory where people eat twice a day and consider cabbage a luxury. This wasn't a construction project. This was me declaring war on poverty, hunger, and barbarians all at the same time, funded entirely by a video game that nobody else could see. Sometimes being the craziest person in the room is a strategy. My recruitment notice hit Youzhou like a lightning bolt. The officials who delivered it didn't even believe it themselves. The village chief of Mountain Mouth Village read it 3 times, flipped it over, held it up to the light, and asked, "Are we sure nobody copied the numbers wrong? 300 coins a day? 9 taels of silver a month? To build a palace? And 2 sheng of rice daily? The emperor doesn't eat that much." The local leader's oldest son was scratching his head. Maybe someone's using the prince's name to scam people? I heard from my second aunt's brother-in-law's cousin that the new prince is literally a baby. But the chief was smart about it. This document came from the official government. Real or fake, we're sending people. Even if they only give half of what's promised, it's still the best deal in Youzhou. And look, it says military families and poor families get priority. They wouldn't specifically target the most desperate people just to trick them, right? His youngest son had been eavesdropping from behind the door and burst in. "Dad, let me go? Even if they don't pay, I'll take it for just the free clothes." The kid had never owned a new outfit in his life. Everything was hand-me-downs from his uncle. The chief, being a fair man, pulled out the village registry and did it properly. First, households with family members in the army. That got him about 20 names. Then, the hardest-working families in the worst poverty. Filled the 40 spots fast. Actually had more qualified people than slots. He put his own nephew on the list instead of his youngest son. His father is serving in the army. The spot goes to his family. That's the rule. The oldest son stayed quiet. He thought the whole thing was too good to be true. 300 coins a day. The highest-paying back-breaking labor in the region. Hauling salt at Yuyang Harbor. Only paid 100. And 2 sheng of rice. That's enough to feed an entire family for a day. What household can afford to feed one worker that much? The chief called a village meeting, rang the bell, gathered everyone at the threshing ground. Read my notice out loud, word for word. The crowd's reaction, laughter. Chief, what are you doing? It's hot outside. You dragged us all here for a comedy show? Wait, did I miss something? Build a palace. Get 2 shung of rice a day. If they actually give that much rice, forget the money. I'll work for free. It's not even busy season. I walked all the way here for this. Chaos. Noise. Disbelief. The chief stood there like a rock and kept talking. Listen, I think this is real. The notice prioritizes military families. That means the prince is rewarding the men who fight barbarians on the border. He's saying he hasn't forgotten their sacrifice. And poor families next. He hasn't forgotten us either. Mountain Mouth only gets 40 spots. We're all poor here, so I picked the hardest workers, the families with the most mouths to feed, people who won't embarrass us. The guarantee group system means if one person messes up, all 40 get kicked out. So I'm not sending anyone who'll cause problems. The crowd went quiet. Some people's eyes turned red. Some still didn't believe it. Nothing this good exists in real life. Old Man Yu, the same guy who was farming in the northern fields during the attack, got a spot because 2 of his sons serve in the army. But his family wasn't celebrating like their neighbors. They'd almost died out there 2 days ago. And the construction site? Also in the north. Same area. Old Yu squatted under his eaves, sipped water, and thought it through. Send my grandson Yinzi. There'll be over 1,000 workers plus the prince's soldiers on site. No raider would attack that many people. If a 7-year-old prince is brave enough to live out there in the wilderness, we can handle showing up for day labor. Young Yinzi wasn't scared either. During the attack, he'd run far enough to look back and see armored soldiers on horseback charging to meet the barbarians. Real armor. Real swords. The prince's men from Chang'an. They'd fought back. After the roster was settled, families started fantasizing about the pay. If they really give that much, Yinzi could get married. Married? With 27 taels, he could marry 5 girls. Ha! I've never even seen that much silver in my entire life. Are the clothes new? Our Yinzi has never worn new clothes. Everything he owns is his uncle's old stuff. Over in Youzhou city proper, the 1,000 spots caused an absolute riot. City residents, unlike the villagers, didn't doubt for a second that I could afford it. They walk past my palace walls every day. Those tall, impressive walls that are basically the only nice thing Governor Jiang built. And they all think, Emperor's son? Must be loaded, huh? Ha. If only they knew. 1,000 spots across 19 city districts. People nearly killed each other fighting for slots. Eventually, they just divided them equally. No arguments, no favorites. Everyone gets their fair share. Registration day arrived. Before sunrise, the area outside my west gate was packed with ragged, thin, hopeful people. They didn't need individual registration. Each group leader just handed in their list. My clerks confirmed names, checked ages, made sure everyone looked healthy enough to work. The guarantee group system meant they'd police each other. Nobody wanted to be the guy whose village got expelled because he stole a brick. I snuck out to watch. Peeked around a corner at the crowd of my future workers. They were wearing the worst clothes I'd seen yet. Worse than what I'd noticed on my regular walks through town. These were the poorest of the poor, because that's exactly who the priority system selected for. Looking at them made my heart hurt a little. But also, looking at 5,000 people who showed up at my door because they trusted my word. Even just a little, even just enough to gamble one family member's time. That made something else swell in my chest. Something that felt like, I am not going to let these people down. Now I just need to activate the construction quest, summon 5,000 sets of work clothes from a magical video game, and somehow explain where all of this came from without anyone calling an exorcist. Easy, right? Construction had to start fast, before autumn harvest, or I'd lose all my workers to their fields. Tomorrow, site prep. Day after, full construction begins. Prime Minister Shui came by, suspicious as always, asking if I had materials ready. I blinked my big round eyes at him. I've already assigned someone to handle it. Besides, don't you dig foundations first? He thought about it, shrugged, and walked away. His internal calculation was probably, even if this kid wastes every coin, at least the money goes into local pockets. Worst case, it's charity with extra steps. That night, I kicked Zhao Bao out of my study and pulled up the construction blueprints from my game panel. The building plan was Intense. Below the gorgeous architectural drawings was an endless list of materials. Some I understood: stone, wood, timber, obvious stuff. But then, Europa concrete no. 1. Exotic plant adhesive number 3. Ceramic triple junction pipe, 25 caliber. Ceramic pipe, 25 caliber, 500 meters. Glass windows, 120 by 120. I recognized every individual word. Put together? Gibberish. What on earth is a ceramic triple junction pipe? I've been studying the 1,000-character classic for 3 years, and none of this was in it. Whatever. I'm not building this thing with my own hands. That's what the NPC is for. Whatever an NPC is. What I could understand was the model, the 3D preview of my finished palace. And every single time I looked at it, my blood ran hot with excitement. This thing made the imperial palace in Chang'an look like a shed. I rubbed my little hands together, cracked my knuckles. Well, tried to. 7-year-old fingers don't really crack. And ceremonially pressed start. A tiny green holographic palace appeared, floating and translucent. I navigated to the northern wasteland on my map, zoomed in until I could confirm nobody was standing there, and placed the model on the flat ground near the border. Confirm construction location? Yes/no yes. Build according to original Imperial Prince's residence blueprint scale? Maximum adjustment, 1.5x. Original scale, /1.5x scale. My philosophy on walls is simple. Taller is better. Until I can build actual city walls, this palace's outer wall is my city wall. It needs to stop cavalry charges, not look pretty. 1.5x, obviously. Retrieve all raw materials, tools, equipment, and 5,000 technical workers? Yes/no, yes. Materials deployed to construction site. Summon on-site technical supervisor NPC, Youzhou? Yes/no. I tapped yes, expecting him to appear at the construction site like the materials. A full-grown man materialized 3 feet in front of my desk. I nearly fell out of my chair. A tall, black-robed middle-aged man, just standing there, appearing from nothing, in my private study, at night. I'd done the horse appearing in my bedroom thing before, but a human being popping into existence? New experience. Very different from a horse. He bowed formally. Greetings, my lord. I am Youzhou, on-site technical supervisor for the Prince's Residence project. I have traveled extensively and studied advanced architectural theory in foreign lands across the sea. You may entrust the construction to me with complete confidence. I stared at him for several seconds. Then, with the scientific rigor of a true scholar, I reached out my chubby finger and poked his hand. Warm. Good news. He's a real person. He looks normal. He feels normal. No glowing, no transparency, no floating. Youzhou didn't even flinch. He just smiled. I am indeed a citizen of Jin, my lord. The man was good. Professional. Unfazed by being poked by a child monarch who just summoned him from another dimension. My lord, tomorrow I will coordinate all local workers. Their uniforms and meals can be distributed through me. Please transfer the work clothes and 1 day's worth of meal rations to the construction site. I nodded, eyes still wide, and dragged 1,500 sets of work uniforms and 5,000 meal packages from my warehouse onto the building site on my map. Each meal package was a neat cloth bag containing 2 shung of rice. 1 bag per worker per day. Simple, clean, organized. Wait, I hadn't actually seen this rice yet. Curiosity demanded action. I pulled out 1 bag, cut the string with my paper knife, and WHOA, I've never eaten rice this nice. It was the whitest, most perfect rice I'd ever seen. Each grain was luminous, like tiny pearls. I grew up in the imperial palace and ate wheat noodles and flatbread. Even the emperor didn't have rice this pretty. My workers were about to eat better than I did. I was simultaneously proud and jealous. My resentment must have been radiating off me like heat, because the NPC, who I thought was just standing there like a mannequin, suddenly spoke unprompted. My lord, if you complete more quests, you can earn rewards. Rewards can be exchanged for white rice, or anything else you desire. You can even deposit silver to purchase items from the universal marketplace once it opens. He paused. I could tell he felt slightly guilty. He was basically telling a 7-year-old about in-app purchases. My eyes lit up. Spend silver to buy game items. That means I could, wait. What silver? I barely have enough to feed my soldiers. My treasury is a joke. My savings account is a prayer. We'll discuss that later. Moving on, Zhao Bao came back from the front office and spotted a stranger walking out of my private study. His protective instincts went nuclear. He interrogated the door guard eunuch. Who was that? When did he arrive? The eunuch's face went blank. I didn't see anyone come in. Zhao Bao kicked him. The prince is in there. You're guarding the door and you missed a whole adult man walking through it. The eunuch dropped to his knees, apologizing for his life. In fairness to him, the man appeared from thin air. Nobody walked through any door. But good luck explaining that. Zhao Bao chased down Zhao Zhuge in the corridor. Before he could even ask, "Who are you?" the NPC smoothly bowed and said, "You must be Chief Eunuch Zhao, the prince's most trusted attendant. His Highness asked you to arrange a horse for me. I need to ride to the construction site tonight. A large shipment of building materials is arriving and I must oversee the delivery." Zhao Bao was flabbergasted. This complete stranger knew his name, his rank, and had royal authorization. He had no choice but to send someone to get the man a horse. Then he came to interrogate me. "Your Highness, where did this construction foreman come from?" I gave him my most mysterious expression. "I have my connections." "What connections?" "I'm 7. I've been in Youzhou for months, and I barely know anyone." "Your Highness, shouldn't Wang the imperial architect handle the new construction?" This Zhao fellow called himself a commoner. He has no rank, no title, no credentials. You're putting a complete unknown in charge of the biggest project in Youzhou? I slammed my palm on the desk, scrunched up my entire round face in disgust, and declared, "Wang the architect built this palace. Have you seen this palace? It's an empty lot with a gate. He's fired from my buildings forever." Zhao Bao. Pour one out for Wang the architect. Didn't have the budget, but gets the blame anyway. Diary entry, July 4th, Prince's residence. Magic tricks are so much fun. I'm very happy today. Things are moving in the right direction again. Everything else is classified. I have many little secrets. That night I lay in bed. Little bays tucked under one arm, game panel glowing in the other hand. Left, fluffy divine beast. Right, magical spy satellite. Living the dream. I zoomed into the northern construction site on my map and sat bolt upright. The wasteland was transformed. Tents everywhere, lights blazing, thousands of tiny figures in matching outfits already swarming the site like industrious ants, hauling materials, setting up equipment. My game's NPC workers were machines. No breaks, no complaints, pure efficiency. I watched them for a solid minute thinking one devastating thought. Why do they have to be temporary? Let me keep them. I pulled the blanket over my head and nearly burst into tears. Not from sadness, from greed. I wanted those workers so badly. Excitement made sleep impossible. I kept popping out of the covers to poke my map. Poke, poke, poke. Then I noticed little bays had crawled onto my chest and was also staring at the glowing panel. Those big purple eyes, completely focused, watching the screen like a tiny furry supervisor. "Wait, you can see this?" He yawned elegantly and gave me a look that said, "Figure it out yourself, right? You literally came from this thing. So, can you read those weird squiggly letters I don't understand?" Bay stared at me for exactly 1 second, then climbed up my face and plastered himself across my eyes like a living sleep mask. "Go to bed, idiot." I lay there with a mystical beast on my face and accepted my fate. Fine. Sleep. Big day tomorrow. Meanwhile, across town in Five Leaf District, Youzhou's most legendary slum, and in a city that's basically all slum, that's saying something. A family was having its own kind of mourning. Qian Daong was 14. His dad was dead from illness, still owed money for medicine. His mom was paralyzed. He had a 10-year-old sister and a 7-year-old brother. For people, zero income except whatever odd jobs he could scrape together. They were the poorest family in the poorest neighborhood in the poorest city in the empire. They won the poverty championship at every level. His little sister woke up early and cooked the last of their grain into watery porridge. Side dish, wild greens she and the little brother dug from beside the city wall yesterday, blanched in hot water, sprinkled with the last pinch of salt. That's dinner and breakfast. Daong took 2 sips and pushed the bowl to his brother. That was all their food. If he ate it all, his siblings and mom would starve today. His sister panicked. "You're going to work today? You can't go on an empty stomach." "I'm not hungry. I heard they feed you at the construction site. If they give out grain, I'll bring it home tonight, and we'll eat together. His 7-year-old brother pushed the bowl back. Then me and sister will wait until tonight too. Big brother. The neighbor kid said you can earn dozens of taels working for the prince. Does that mean we could eat twice a day? What does a little kid know? Don't believe everything you hear, his sister snapped. She couldn't even dream that big. People who didn't believe good things could happen to them. There were a lot of those in Youzhou. But when the workers arrived at the northern construction site that morning, every single jaw dropped. Overnight, literally overnight, the empty wasteland had become a massive staging ground. Mountains of stone, forests of timber, piles of materials nobody had ever seen before, stacked in perfect rows stretching further than the eye could see. And there were already thousands of workers on site, wearing identical gray uniforms with red trim and black boots, moving with terrifying organization, using tools that didn't even exist in Youzhou. This is what the emperor's son can do. Just conjure a construction empire from nothing? Yeah, that's exactly what he can do. Don't ask questions. Youzhou, my NPC supervisor, cool as ice, lined everyone up in 5 queues and had his assistants bang a gong for attention. I'm Youzhou, construction supervisor. Quick rules. Everyone gets a uniform and tomorrow's meal ration today. Go home, rest, show up at dawn tomorrow in your uniform. Bring lunch from the ration. We're on a tight schedule. That's it. And then they started handing out supplies. The crowd went from skeptical to electric. It was actually happening. Real clothes, real food, given before any work was done. The first man to receive his package, a neatly bundled uniform and a cloth bag of rice, made a face that was half laughing, half crying. His neighbors in line yelled, "Old Zhao? Is it real? Is it actually 2 sheng?" He wiped his eyes. "It's rice. Real rice. 2 full sheng. And they said tomorrow after work we get another bag for the day after." The crowd exploded. And then, nobody planned this. Nobody organized it. Every single worker who received their package turned south toward Youzhou City, toward my palace, dropped to their knees, and kowtowed. "Thank you, Your Highness," one after another. Hundreds of ragged, hungry men, pressing their foreheads to the dirt, thanking a 7-year-old they'd never met for 2 pounds of rice and a set of clothes. I had snuck out of class to watch. I was hiding at the edge of the site, and this is what I saw. Hundreds of people kneeling in my direction, thanking me. My face went so red, I probably looked like a tomato on horseback. I was trying to decide whether to run away from the embarrassment when a teenage boy burst out of the crowd, clutching his uniform and rice bag like they were made of gold, dropped to his knees right next to me, and smashed his forehead into the ground 3 times. Hard. His forehead turned red instantly. Then he got up and started walking away, sobbing openly. I couldn't help myself. "Big brother, why are you crying?" Qiandaong was crying so hard he couldn't see. He heard a voice, wiped his face, looked around. Nobody there. Then he looked down and found a small chubby child staring up at him with enormous concerned eyes. "It's nothing. I'm thinking about my mom. My little brother and sister. They're not going to die now. We have rice. They won't starve. I'm so happy. I'm just so happy." He was falling apart. Words tumbling out between sobs. About how tired he'd been, how scared, how every single day was a fight to keep his family alive for one more sunrise. And now, holding 2 pounds of rice and a new set of clothes, the weight lifted just enough for him to crack. He's 14, carrying an entire family on his back, and a bag of rice made him collapse with relief. I recognized something in him. We're alike, me and this kid. He has his family to keep alive. I have an entire territory. We're both too young for the weight we carry, and we're both too stubborn to put it down. After we exchanged names and parted ways, I stood there doing math in my head. This construction project feeds 5,000 families for 90 days. But what about day 91? The wages will keep them going for maybe another 6 months to a year. Then what? Then what? I had just randomly bumped into a teenager whose entire family was about to die of starvation. That's not an outlier. That's normal here. 92% hunger index. Every other person I meet is 1 bad week away from death. The main quest says, lower hunger by 3%. 3. And I'm standing here wondering if that's even possible. I wanted to put my hands on my hips and scream at the sky. How? How do you fix a famine with a video game and a 7-year-old? The boy's stress didn't disappear when he walked away. It just transferred to me. Welcome to my life. where every moment of joy comes with a free side of existential crisis. After watching the construction site all morning, I went to afternoon martial arts training completely distracted. My brain was still at the building site doing math on hunger indexes. So distracted, in fact, that I accidentally grabbed Zhao Chuan's bow instead of my practice one. His bow. The adult military bow. The one designed for a battle-hardened soldier twice my height. I pulled it back and fired. The arrow didn't just hit my little straw practice dummy. It obliterated it, shredded it into confetti. The target basically ceased to exist as a physical object. I stared at the straw carnage. Zhao Chuan stared at the straw carnage. We stared at each other. Why, Your Highness? Oh. City Lord's heart. Strong and healthy, apparently means, secretly has the arm strength of a grown warrior. I'm 7, and I just drew a military bow that full-grown soldiers struggle with. Time to act natural. Wow, I'm so talented. Look how amazing I am. I clapped for myself. Very convincing. Nothing suspicious here. Within half a day, everyone knew. Every official, every eunuch, every guard. The entire palace was buzzing with the news that Prince Yu is a martial arts prodigy. A born warrior. A 7-year-old weapons genius who casually destroys training targets with adult weapons. The mood in the palace shifted overnight. My people had been living under a cloud. Poor territory, dangerous borders, a child king who spends money like water. But now their baby king had supernatural combat talent. Suddenly, there was a spark of hope. Even Zhao Bao started connecting dots. Your Highness was born under the war star, named for peace and stability. And now this? Maybe the legends are true. Maybe our prince is destined to be a great military leader who'll terrify the northern tribes. Listen, I'll take it. If people want to build a mythology around me, I'm not going to correct them. Beats the alternative narrative of chubby child who cried at a banquet and ate his brother's curtains. Meanwhile, across the city, my workers were discovering their rations. Qian Daong, the crying teenager from registration day, sprinted home, locked the door, and ripped open his rice bag. The family gathered around and stared at the contents like it was made of diamonds. I've never seen rice this white. Big brother, rice without any bran or husks is this color. How did they even mill this? The prince is a good person. His mom, paralyzed but sharp as ever, took one look and immediately switched into survival mode. Tonight we cook a tiny bit of porridge so everyone can taste it. The rest we trade for cheap beans. Rice this fine will trade for a lot of coarse grain. That's how we make it last. That's wisdom forged by years of poverty. Don't eat the luxury item. Trade it for maximum volume. Then they opened the uniform package. It wasn't just work clothes. Inside, one outer uniform, gray with blue trim. I later learned the NPC workers got red trim, locals got blue, one set of snow-white undergarments, shorts, and a pair of black boots. All in fabric nobody had ever seen before. Thick, sturdy, clearly built to last. Mom touched the white underclothes over and over. She'd never felt fabric this soft in her life. The kids went crazy. Daong made the practical call. The supervisor said we only need to wear the outer uniform. Nobody sees the underclothes. We'll sell them for grain. Every single family had the exact same idea. Not one worker kept the undergarments for personal use. They all sold them. These were the poorest people in Youzhou, wearing nice underwear ranked somewhere below, being alive, on their priority list. By the next day, those white undergarments hit the Youzhou marketplace and became an instant sensation. In a world where most people wore undyed gray or brown, snow-white silky fabric was basically haute couture. Wealthy families snapped them up. Cloth merchants bought them in bulk to resell down south. My construction project accidentally created a luxury fashion brand. The Prince You Work uniform collection was trending in Youzhou. Not how I expected to stimulate the economy, but I'll take it. Out at the construction site, things were moving at inhuman speed. Literally, since half the workforce was from another dimension. Prime Minister Shui and tutor Su finally couldn't resist coming to see for themselves. What they found: thousands of workers, the foundation already taking shape, everything running with military precision. Not a single person standing around. Not a single argument. Not a single wasted minute. Shui nodded slowly. This Zhao fellow is genuinely talented. Then they walked further in and saw the scale. The new palace wasn't just big. It was 1.5x the original blueprints big. It was enormous. The materials alone stretched to the horizon, neat stacks of stone, wood, and mysterious substances they'd never encountered before. Tutor Sue, who didn't know my grandfather's financial situation, assumed my mom's family had secretly bankrolled everything. Reasonable guess. Wrong, but reasonable. Shui knew the Wei family was broke. He knew they begged the court for their own military funding every year. So where was all this coming from? He stared at the mountains of building materials, then stared at the distant palace where a 7-year-old was probably eating snacks, and thought, this child is not what he seems. Correct, Prime Minister. Very correct. Please never investigate further. They walked to the back of the construction site and found themselves staring directly at the border. Xianbei grasslands rolling northward. No buffer zone. No wall between the construction workers and potential cavalry charges. Just open field and then enemy territory. Shui felt two emotions simultaneously, pride in his prince's courage and terror for his prince's safety. When he got back, he did something he'd never done in his entire career in Youzhou. He wrote a praise report to the emperor. The letter was a masterpiece. It described how the young prince personally witnessed barbarian raiders slaughter 30 innocent citizens. How the prince, overcome with righteous fury, declared he would protect every person in his territory, even those living outside the city walls. How the prince made the extraordinary decision to build his residence at the very edge of the border, placing himself as the empire's first line of defense. Then 3 full pages of, "Isn't this child incredible? Shouldn't we all be ashamed that a 7-year-old has more courage than the rest of us combined?" Pure propaganda. Beautiful, strategic propaganda. See, Shui was thinking ahead. When Chang'an eventually hears that the Prince of Yu built himself a massive new palace, somebody's going to ask uncomfortable questions. Why does an unfavored prince need a residence that big? Is he planning a rebellion? Does he think he's the emperor? But if the story is already established, brave child prince sacrifices comfort to guard the border with his own body, then the giant palace isn't suspicious. It's patriotic. It's the fortress of a loyal guardian, not the vanity project of an ambitious prince. Shui was playing chess 3 moves ahead, making sure my reputation was bulletproof before anyone could use my palace against me. I didn't even know he was doing this. The man was protecting me without being asked. That I really need to give this guy a raise. Once I can afford one, which might be never. But the thought counts.